5:30, probably made to order. Some announcements before we get started. West Newbury Food Pantry has a wish list, which is in the packet as well as on the COA website. There's an Amazon wish list here for items that are needed as well as specific food items, so please take a look at that. Call for volunteers. We still have openings on some town boards and committees. www.wnewbury.org/volunteer. And feel free to reach out to the town clerk if you have any questions about the opening set. Item A, public comment. Anybody here wishing to make a public comment? Okay. Item B, town manager updates.
Thank you. The first update, just let you know we continue to work toward the website conversion. For those who may not have been part of prior discussions, this is something that was required by the vendor as they're changing to a different platform. So the timing isn't what we would have chosen heading into budget season. It is a significant level of effort for our staff to manage the conversion. But I have to say, I think it's going pretty smoothly. We had our most recent work session on this was yesterday. It was a combination of work session and really training. And we do continue to believe that the website when we get to the other side is going to be qualitatively better in a number of respects to the current site, both in terms of the user or the kind of visitor interface, but also the user interface. So this kind of next level version of the Civic Plus platform is something that Amanda had actually worked with in her prior job in Linfield, and there's some things that I can see very clearly are like you can do bulk uploads of files. That's one example where right now you have to do one by one, not just upload them, but then create the link, and it's literally 3 steps to add something to step. No problem, we can do it in 2 minutes, but with this you can upload like 50 files in 5 seconds. So
that's the thing with that is you have to make sure that you don't put certain characters when you label like Microsoft Word or PDF, because when you go to upload it, it doesn't accept that. So you have to so we'll have to do training on that.
So anyhow, so we're in the thick of that. We haven't set a cutover date for when the new site will be live. I think it's likely to be around mid-January. I think sooner in some ways would be better for us, because the company has already migrated the content it's going to migrate. What that means is every single change to the website from December 9th forward is going to need to be made on the new website. So we have a tracking system. Rebecca has done a fantastic job sending out guidance to departments. So everyone has to keep track of every change they make to the site, so that when the new site comes live, they also make the change there. There are some pretty significant substantive changes we're looking to make on the website, and for logistical reasons, we can't really wait 3 weeks to do that, so we're going to have to do that again. So anyhow, it's going to continue to affect our workload for at least probably another month. So not the timing we would have chosen, but I wanted to put that front and center because it is a daily impact on our time. Second item, Middle Street Bridge. I included the construction schedule that's been sent over to the consultant engineer to review and make sure it all holds up. But basically, bottom line is it shows project completion in May of 2026, which is what I had presented verbally previously. But I thought you might like to see it being chart and see kind of all the details at the end of that. We actually had 2 working meetings earlier this week that Butch and I were in attendance, one on Monday and then one on Wednesday for a very specific issue. But it's the work is going well.
What about the change order?
We have not gotten the cost yet, so they're working.
Time impact, does that impact the schedule at all?
No, it won't impact the schedule. That impact has already passed. If that hadn't happened, there's a good chance that actually would have been passable already.
They've done the work though?
Oh yeah, they had to, because it was excavating the unsuitable materials.
Okay, why haven't they put up the change order, I guess?
It's got to be, so SNR has to provide the estimate to our engineer, and our engineer has to review that. They are actively working on that. And I think it's going to be based on how the contract is written, some amount of that is the contractor's responsibility. So there's gonna be some back and forth on that. Next item, the Page Pipe State Crossing, I included in the packet what was current as of the packet going out. More recently, you may have noticed the RFPs actually have been installed. They're not activated yet, but they are installed, so that's good news. And the pickleball courts, they had until December 15th to do the base course of paving. That all got done. The site is secure. So that's gonna go over the winter for the freeze-thaw cycle, and then early in the spring, they'll come back for the fencing, the bench, the net posts and nets, and the top course of paving, striping, painting, and all of that. So that has gone very, very smoothly. I mean, really, that contract is mobilized, and that's been, knock on wood, a very smooth process so far.
Great.
The budget calendar and approved budget policy direction. The policy direction is what you had voted December 4th, so that's not anything new. That's been sent around to all department heads along with an overall budget packet, which includes both the calendar, the policy direction, as well as a lot of the nuts and bolts of what's expected within the budget process and article submittal. The one item on the calendar that the board hasn't acted on previously, which is in your authority, is the date the warrant would close. So I did want to introduce that and see if you're comfortable with the February 5th that I put into the schedule. That does align pretty well with prior years. It's always either very end of January or first week of February. So if that feels like a comfortable schedule for you, that is what I put out. I had a department meeting earlier today, and we had just about every department there. We met for a little over an hour. It was a very, very positive meeting. So I think we're in good shape with kicking off the budget process.
Can the schedule be sent to Casey? That way she'll be aware, because I know she always seems like
Yep,
she doesn't get fair warning, but.
yeah, definitely. Okay, great. And we did have a meeting with the finance committee last night, and that was also a very positive meeting. I provided them with these same documents, the calendar and the policy direction, as well as the next item, the capital improvement program memo. So we went through that in quite a bit of detail. They met for a little over 2 hours last night, and Jenny and I were there. Wendy was there for the first part of it. She had to leave for another meeting. But we went through all the capital things in detail. We went through the budget calendar, got some dates on the calendar, and on capital, they assigned a member to basically be the point person for different sections of the capital program: public safety, public works, page school, facilities, and so forth. So I met today with the department heads involved with the capital planning process, and I think everyone feels very positive about that, because the committee members are going to be going out to do basically field trips or site visits to various locations over the course of the next 5 or 6 weeks. Because that's going to be a more comfortable time. As you know, once we get into February, March, everything's just so, everything's before them for a vote. So building that familiarity now is really good.
So will this February 2nd date be too tight? I mean, it's essentially a month away once we get.
February 5th?
Yeah, that first week in February.
You mean for closing the warrant?
Yeah, I guess there can be a placeholder put in.
Yeah, there can be a placeholder, and right now, the schedule we set for February has 3 meetings in the month. The 5th, the 12th, and the 26th, because we wanted to avoid that 3rd week for school vacation week.
Yeah.
So if, as the date approaches, or even at your January 8th meeting, if you wanted to revisit that, push it back to the 12th, you could. I think historically the 5th, I think it should be fine,
Okay.
but that's based on staff and what's kind of on our radar for what articles may come forward. If we learn that there's other articles that would need more lead time, obviously that's ultimately up to the board, and we vote when it first want.
Again, a person of interest identified connected to both the MIT shooting and the mass shooting at Brown University.
We had a meeting yesterday, this first meeting of the Regional Agreement Advisory Committee. for Whittier Tech. And I included that, those materials in your packet. There's quite a lot there. The first order of business was to establish, committee leadership. I was nominated to serve as chair, and the committee did vote to designate me as chair. And, Mayor Barrett as the vice chair. So,
Interesting.
yeah, so it's, we got our work cut out for us. There's quite a lot to do. I think, we can include that in a future meeting to go into more detail, but basically, in a nutshell, in order for the project to move from, the feasibility to the schematic, one of the conditions of the MSBA letter, inviting the project into the pipeline was that any regional agreement changes be agreed before MSBA will approve a schematic design. So,
Wow.
wow is right. So you're talking about an 11-0 support, eight town meetings, 3 city councils, unanimous, and DESI, and the Whittier School Committee all have to arrive at consensus. I did ask the question at the meeting yesterday, of one of the communities, whether there's a scenario that they may actually seek to exit the district because they've
Mhm.
flirted with that idea. That is something I'm gonna be looking to push to some resolution, because if it does feel that there's simply not a path to consensus. Obviously, the goal is consensus, but if it looks like that's not possible. There are other avenues, so. I also, couldn't help thinking during yesterday's meeting about what Chris had brought up many months ago, which is the legislative path to amend the agreement, because it's a tall order on a short timeline, with really the objective being for spring of 2027. So you're talking about roughly 12 months from now, or 13 months from now, having a package of amendments that are unanimously supported.
And which town meeting would we be targeting?
The April of 2027. That's not set in stone, but anything later than that is gonna continue to push back the schematic design process, and obviously with the passage of time, costs go up.
Mhm.
So to say it's a tall order is a great understatement.
I think it's gonna go legislative eventually.
Well, we need to keep those lines of communication open early and often, because,
You don't want to bring them in at the last minute.
no, yeah, I mean, you might wanna, proceed in parallel.
I
with,
mean, you could get the committee to all agree, and then the town meeting could say,
Right,
why?
right.
So, just a point of comment too, you missed the item F.
Oh, good, yeah, yes, the Newburyport City Council Ad Hoc Committee on Water Infrastructure. I think I can probably assume you share, really impressive piece of work. They did an astounding amount of work in about, less than 3 months over the course of 10 meetings. I attended all but 2 of the meetings. A very robust process, very tightly managed process, very efficient meetings. They got a tremendous amount done. They have a lot of work ahead of them, but I think it's encouraging, to say the least, that it's overtly organized around an agreement with West Newbury, which is what we've been looking for 45 years. So I think the door is open now in a way that it has not been open literally since 1980. So that's
So is the leadership on this, that's changing, right?
it's changing. Yeah, Councilor Preston's term ends at the end of this month. That was her last meeting earlier this month. 6 of the 11 councilors are turning over. So as you saw in the report, their recommendation is that the new council created a new ad hoc committee. And I think that's all but certain that will happen.
Okay.
I won't, I don't know with the new membership, whether those are people who have been coming to the meetings, but it's all recorded, all the materials are online, and there's just no question that the topic of water has reached a much higher profile in the city in the last 3 months than it had for anyone's memory. Yeah.
That's great.
So, Invasive plant management, we had a really good working meeting earlier today with our contractor ELM, Ecological Land Management. That included myself, Butch, Paul Savigny, Dan Callahan, our conservation agent, as well as Caitlin Barker and Jen Geary. Really good meeting. We're working toward basically the action item that's set out in the open space and rec plan, which is to work toward property-specific invasive management plans that would then be brought forward for review by the custodial entities, whether that's select board, Concom, or possibly, water commissioner, park and rec, as we have 4 different ownership entities or just custodial entities of Concom land. So, our near-term priority, which is the same as we could put into the warrant article for the fall town meeting, is the butterfly garden at the Mill Pond site. And that is in identified habitat area, so that would have a longer lead time permitting wise. But we've also invited a proposal for treatment of the knotweed that's been identified on the north side of 113 at Page School, right by the crosswalk. So I expect treatment on that to have, there's at least 3 applications of herbicide treatment in 2026.
Okay. So the management plans, property specific management plans, that'll be a longer term thing.
Longer term,
Yeah.
yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for Dan. Molly and I are meeting with Dan next week. And I think there's an opportunity where he has such a strong background for a decade of his prior career prior to coming to West Newbury, dealt with invasive management. So it's really gonna be a lot about his bandwidth. Obviously, he has a lot to do day to day with his conservation agent responsibilities, but I know he's interested in kind of taking on an initiative. And Molly and I are very interested in empowering him to do that, subject to, his cues as to, making sure it doesn't compromise his primary responsibilities. But so he and I had met for about 25 minutes prior to the group meeting, just to go through kind of the background, where we've been, where we are, and where we're trying to go. And he's very enthusiastic about it. So I think it's going to be opportunistic if he's able to, and also Brian Cullen, the consultant, has a very clear understanding of where we're trying to get, not the specifics, but kind of the work product. So, it's one of these things, we'll see how quickly it goes. It's gonna take time. It's gonna take, time, but.
I think when we had talked about it at the last meeting, we said, let's do the targeted spots
Yeah,
now, and then the longer term management plans for each property would be FY 27, but it sounds like that's kind of the track you're on.
yeah, I think so. I definitely.
Ask me something, I can't remember now. Okay.
Let's see, this was just included as an informational item. There had been a request for a list of public and private roadways, so that was issued to the, or provided the resident who requested, so we went ahead and put that in the packet just so it's publicly available.
Do the DPW, do they know the length of the private roads? And it's not listed here because they don't plow it, but I just wonder if that's available somewhere.
Yeah, it could be determined easily, but it's the official record for the length of the road is the street acceptance plan, which is an engineered plan.
Yeah.
So they could certainly, rough it out with GIS or even go take measurements, but since the length of public roadways is the basis of the funding we receive every year from the state through Chapter 90 funds, that's a precise number. There's really no public interest in maintaining the length of the private roads because those don't tie into the Chapter 90 formula, but it would be easy enough to estimate that with GIS, or if we needed something more precise, Butch could take a measurement.
No, I was just curious. There's a lot more than I thought there was. So,
19 of them.
yeah, I'm glad this is put together.
There's-
Are you surprised?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's 19, but there's only one that's currently getting addressed too,
Yeah.
so it's a dicey situation.
Yeah. Angus, the question I wanted to ask you on the invasives, let me just back up, is what the prospects for the intern program is this spring or something?
That's something, so I met with Molly earlier this week in preparation for the meeting next week with Dan, and we fully intend to go forward.
Great,
But we also want to make sure he's feeling comfortable. He's only been here a couple months, and I think he is feeling very comfortable.
Good.
But yeah, we have every intention to go forward with that.
great.
And then finally, this was just, we got kind of some found money that came in from Eastern Essex. They had some budget turnbacks, and they released that proportionally to the different towns' contributions, so that's about $7,600. So when that kind of thing comes in, it's credited to the miscellaneous non-recurring revenue, and that all feeds into free cash balance.
Mhm. Chris, did you want to update on the Board of Health?
Yes, we should. So I went to the meeting last night, a trash talker. So the process they started is Rachel and Caitlin are working together on the RFP. They're looking at other towns, RFPs, Granby, Groveland, and others, I guess. They're looking around February of 2026 to get the proposals out. They plan on advertising in the Combine, which I assume that's a trade publication or something, I don't know what it is.
Combis.
Huh?
Combis,
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
it's just like a state clearinghouse.
Okay,
You need
yeah.
minimum qualifications and then you could just use that.
And the Daily News. And they want to be very specific on the requirements. I think one of the problems they are uncomfortable with is the Mello's done such a great job that they have to be very specific in defining everything that
Mhm.
they want to have addressed, where the dumpsters go, how often they get emptied, what kind of barrels we need, what happens if they're not picked up. Which I think, we're fortunate to take it for granted that Mello does a good job, so they just have to make sure they get all that into the proposal. They were discussing 3 or 5 year contract, which should be better. Obviously, the new company, if there were a new company to compete on the bid competitively, if they were successful, they would also have to provide new collection bins because Mello owns the ones we currently have. They were asking me what I thought the process would be, and I said, I was just there to listen. But I said, once it gets drafted, I think the select board should review it, and I think it should go through legal for review after that. They were agreeable to that. And both Blake and Tom wanted to clarify at the previous meeting when they were here, there was a sense that, as they said, they had not put this out to bid previously, but they said they clearly did put it out to bid last time. Was one other bidder. And they had highs and lows in the bids, but it was still favorable for Mello. So they were very bothered by the fact that it was a comment that they hadn't put it out to bid.
Are you talking hauling or disposal?
I believe both. I don't know what the components are.
Yeah,
So I'm just relaying the message.
Okay.
I'm not gonna,
right.
that was generally it on that. Another item they brought up, which I thought was interesting, I hung around for, was mosquito control agency of some sort can come into town. And if there's issues with standing water with mosquitoes, they can go in and clear up the issue without going through Concom approval and all that. And I know they've done it on Crane Next Street last summer. It was pretty impressive. They're looking to do it on the Knapp property where it borders the abutters. Parallel to Merrill Street, there's a large swale, which I guess over the years has gotten plugged and is stagnant water. And so they've spoken with Sarkis, he's given his approval, the neighbors are enthusiastic. And I guess the town has to take a lead on it by endorsing it in some fashion, so. The Board of Health will be doing that, they would like to see the select board and the Concom on board with this as well. My opinion is that I think it's a really great way to fix the issue. In advance of any construction on the property, so that there's no finger pointing about where water came from. The next component of it is, there's a willow tree about halfway down the property. You go from the willow tree downstream towards Main Street. It's not gonna go backwards because there's no need to. And then it goes under Main Street and it hits the property on the corner of Main and
What's in?
Pleasant Village.
Harris.
I think it's Harrison.
Yeah.
So they want to contact that property owner, see if they would be able to clean it up. Where it hits that property, it just kind of spreads out and makes another mess. So that's their plan, and I suspect they would come to us to give a presentation at some point, but they'll be looking to have us hopefully endorse it. And with what they presented to me, it sounded pretty good last time.
Yeah.
That's that.
Any questions? For you, Angus, or,
No, I want to learn more about it, but
you know?
Yeah.
Okay, going on to action items, item C, the first is a request for appointment, for Brendan Pitchwork for CCRC. Is that correct, Angus?
that's right. He put in a letter of interest for 3 different committees, but I was able to connect with him by phone, and he said of the 3, he said 2 things. He said, while he listed all 3 committees, his interest was to serve on one, not multiple. And secondly, he said that CCRC was the one that felt like the best fit.
Okay, and how many openings are there, do you know, Amanda? I can pull it up now. Or I guess you can.
2 vacancies, 3
Oh,
vacancies.
3, okay,
So which position expiring date should we,
we appoint them annually, so,
all of them?
Yeah.
At the same time?
okay. You have any questions, Chris?
No, make a
So he had indicated an intent to participate by Zoom. I told him it was probably gonna be about 550 or so. So I don't see the name, but
Okay,
if he does hop on later, you could invite him to share some comments if you'd like.
okay. I don't have any concerns, if he's interested, I think that'd be great.
Me too.
Motion,
Make a motion to appoint Brendan Afterwalk to the Climate Change Resiliency Committee. The term to expire June 30th of 2026.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D is the request to, for the Mill Pond Committee to change Camille Garo from an associate member to a full member. There's a full member that resigned recently. So, we don't, Amanda, we don't have them fill out a form if it's just a change in status on the committee.
So I would be under the impression that they would. I saw this on the agenda and I think after chatting with Rebecca, we're gonna have that process moving forward. I didn't know that.
Yeah, when I was putting the packet together, I asked about that, but as you know, Max was out
Yeah, I had talked to him
Monday
about
and Tuesday, so
Okay, yeah, we were wondering about that, so.
yeah, because I believe he'd been corresponding. Yeah.
Okay,
We have a date on that one, when the term will expire?
can you pull that up again? I don't think it's critical for this,
Okay,
but I just wanted
yeah.
the process.
No, that's definitely the
Yeah,
process.
so, the person that resigned. I was already been taken off there, so.
So it looks like the vacancy
Yeah.
would be through June 30th, 2027.
Are you okay, just go ahead,
Very fine, yeah.
all right,
Make a motion to appoint Camille Garrow to a full membership on the Mill Pond Committee with a term to expire June 30th, 2027.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item C, request for renewal of retail liquor licenses, we have, 2, West Newbury Pizza Company and West Newbury Food Mart. So these need to be voted separately, but, do you see anything there?
No, I'm just gonna ask the standard questions every year. Have there been any issues or complaints with any of the licensing entities?
No.
I just asked to make sure that.
Yeah.
Would the complaints come to the town clerk, the town manager, or where would they? If
What
we-
kind of complaints do you need?
If they were selling alcohol to minors, if they were late in hours, if they were having problems with customers on the automotive places, any complaints?
We have not received any of those.
Just asking.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if a complaint went to the police department, I don't 100% know that I would find that out. I'm certainly
Well,
not.
Jim was checking on it previously, he would check because he was gonna ask every time. There's
You
something.
didn't get that memo, huh?
No, well, let's look for next time.
Give Jim a call, ask what he first. No, the first year I asked it, he goes, well, I have no idea, but I'll check it, so then he.
I do know Max has done some of the legwork on these and he's been out sick all week, so that leaves us without current information.
Yeah. Anything else in here, Chris?
Well, I have a couple of questions when we get to the item. What, could we just go one at a time then? That was just a group question.
Yes, so let's do the, pizza company
Make
first.
a motion to approve the license of the West Newbury Pizza Company as submitted.
I'll second. I do have a question. The inspection report, is that because it's a restaurant versus the food mart? Didn't have one, I don't think.
I'm gonna answer this correctly, so to be honest, I'm not sure of the exact processes for all these different types of licenses, they vary from different communities.
Yeah.
So to be honest, Max has taken the lead on this for this year, while I've handled other things because.
Yeah.
I'm still getting to understand that.
Yeah. So these need to be voted tonight, I assume, so that,
By the end of, yes.
yeah.
Unless you wanna have a special meeting before December 31st.
No, I don't.
Oh, I believe.
One way to motivate
I
her.
do believe that the pizza company, I was chatting with Rebecca the other day. The inspection is not required by the ABCC, it's a local requirement. I believe,
Because it's a restaurant.
It might also be related to the restaurant,
yes,
so they might just put that in there, even though it's not required.
I think that's something her and Sam were chatting about.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. West Newbury Food Mart? Questions on that one? Motion,
Make a motion to approve the alcohol retail license for the West Newbury Food Mart as submitted.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D is renewal of class 2 motor vehicle licenses. We have 3 dual repair firms in town.
I have a general question on this, because there's a, particularly the first one, which is Newburyport Automotive, there's like 10 pages of insurance and bond information. Does anybody review that to make sure it's in compliance with anything? Are they just submitting it? I mean, I look at it and my eyes glaze over.
Well,
I don't review it, that's, I'm not part of it.
so that's one thing that I've been, the car specifically that I've been looking at over the last couple of weeks, to redo for next year, there's a standard actual auto application that's issued by the, Registry of Motor Vehicles. And if a town is gonna change their form for auto licenses, it has to contain all that, and it's like 6 pages, so the amount of information that we should be getting, requiring for auto licenses is much more in detail, so for next year, you'll be getting a lot more than that, but I'm not sure who exactly would review it. I think a copy does have to get sent to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, we would send that in on the ALIF report that we have to do annually with all the different licenses. That stuff is done as well.
But I assume somebody in your office is reviewing to make sure they submit everything they're supposed to submit.
Yes, exactly, yes, in theory, moving forward, when we know exactly what we'll need, then we will have someone reviewing every single thing.
When the packet, the Newburyport Automotive, he's got all his insurance, his workers' comp, everything. And then you get to Crane Neck Auto and there's just one page with nothing else, so.
Mhm.
My question there is, what's the balance of his information with certificates on that, but we'll get to that one, but.
All right, do you want to vote on the first one then?
Sure, make a motion to approve the motor vehicle license for the Newburyport Automotive.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next one is RTI Enterprises. That one was complete. Yeah.
It does, curiosity, page 134. They have the same power of attorney, Main Street America Insurance page as the Newburyport one. I thought that was odd. I don't know what it means.
The insurance, that's the.
To call power of attorney, no, from Main Street America Insurance. They're identical documents. Page 119 and 134 on the 2 different submittals. I don't know if it's a generic automotive.
Yeah, we'll look at that.
And I assume these also need to be done at the end of the year.
Yes.
No,
No problem, I just found it curious.
no, I agree.
And you could move, pending complete information. And
Okay,
check on that.
so do you want to make it a qualified?
Okay, make a motion to approve the motor vehicle license for RTI Enterprises pending verification of their insurance.
I just note that in the top right of the power of attorney, it does have a different index number.
Right, I just thought it was odd that the two are,
Yeah,
and you've got different dates too, you look down at the bottom.
Mhm. All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then Cranic Auto, that's just on the page, and
Yeah, they're lacking on that one, so
so just, we can approve it pending receipt of,
all the necessary insurance, okay, I'll make a motion to approve the automotive license of Crane Neck Auto pending receipt of all insurance requirement certificates.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item E is a review of town manager office staffing structure and proposed changes. So there's nothing in the packet on this, I think over the last 2 years, this past year especially, we've been really focused on the town work. And been pretty rigorous about what projects get on it, and has to be voted by the select board, and that's all been an effort to kind of manage the workload on the town manager and staff. I think that's been successful to some extent, but, it's still not enough to try to, get the workload under control. I mean, I think the problem is if you look at the town manager's job description, it's not just town manager, it's also finance director and HR director. So the fact that we have one person filling 3 jobs, it makes sense that, Angus is spending up to 60 hours a week, fulfilling job responsibilities. So, I mean, what I would propose, many of the items on the baseline workload are HR related. And I think that if we were to hire an HR manager, that could significantly decrease the amount of work that's landing on Angus's desk, as well as the finance staff who have taken pieces, benefits administration, payroll, that kind of thing. So I guess that first I just want to talk about, Chris, if you think that's a good idea, if this is something that we think we should move forward with, then we have to discuss, how we pay for it. So, you did get the job description that I drafted, and it was based on compilation of, several, other, job descriptions from other towns, and then Angus and his staff also reviewed it and made some additions to that.
Yeah, I saw the comments on that too.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a position we're lacking in, as I said last night at, the Board of Health, I feel, a little negligent that we didn't sort of see this earlier. I didn't see it earlier, because I mean, there's a lot of HR that, this position really, I think the town could benefit from quite a bit. My only concern is this is, I suspect gonna, displace the project manager position.
Mhm.
So I didn't know if there was some intermediate, operations manager, chief of staff position that could accommodate both. You know, they're different, skill sets, but maybe you don't get the highest level on both, but you get assistance on both. I don't know. I think the HR would actually be really critical, and advantageous for the town to have. I think I was reading other job descriptions, I can't remember what it was, all the way from things like negotiating the union contracts, which Angus and I had so many hours into, to have that all under one roof and one umbrella and well organized, I think would be immensely beneficial to the town going forward. And, getting more union contracts thrown at us all the time, so between that, you just did your whole pay analysis and everything, I just think it'd be a really beneficial position for the town. Don't know if there's any way to combine it to, at first, I assume the position will be full-time
Yeah.
and, getting up to speed, get everything established would be a massive project, but I think once it's done, it might not need a full 40 hours, that's why I wonder if there could be assistance with the project management at that point somehow. Which would have to get into the job description and be kind of squishy, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think the skill sets are quite different. I mean, I also just have some concerns about the project manager position, because I feel like I would rather see us take on projects that staff we already have, maybe technical staff, or town planner, conservation agent, health agent, that they could perform, rather than having a dedicated project manager like that's focused on large projects, that's outside the capabilities of staff. So we've been without a project manager for several weeks now, and you know, the big projects we have ongoing, those have consultants on them, so I don't think it's been a huge burden, but if we start new projects, then. You know, I think it will be a burden on Angus as well as, other staff. I mean, I did look at, towns of our size throughout, eastern Massachusetts, and I didn't see any other one that had a project manager, project engineer.
It's not a big project, you just hire that out. that component.
Yeah, either we, don't take projects that we can't do in-house, or we take them on with the assumption that we will get, contracted to, project management. So I'm a little hesitant to conflate the two, because I feel like we should decide if we need an HR manager first, and then. Given that we have an opening for a project manager that hasn't been posted yet. Then decide if it's gonna be one for the other, or whether there's some other option. I think originally I had thought about maybe we do an HR manager on a contract basis. But I just feel like this is something we need right away. I don't wanna go through procurement, and it seems pretty clear that we need it, so I don't know
I
that.
think it'd be preferable to have them on staff, the contract is kind of a distant,
They don't have
kind of different
allegiance.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So it sounds like you are in agreement about an HR manager. With the concern that maybe once things get addressed, they might have extra time.
Yeah, you're down the road, and they don't have enough to fill a 40-hour week. I think the job description has to provide for that, so if they have to do other work,
Yeah.
to assist in somewhere else in town, it's not just wasting taxpayers' dollars.
It might be interesting if there could be, I mean, I could see maybe a combination HR finance person, that seems like a more. We've done practical fit.
Well, whatever it is, I think there needs to be flexibility in there for any excess hours they have once they get up to speed.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think about the project manager position?
I just kind of chuckling to myself. Yeah, I think one of the things, if you don't have it, it's gonna sort of slow us down a bit right now, which is not a bad thing from
Mhm.
where everybody's so overwhelmed. And yes, I think we could hire on project-specific basis consultants to oversee our projects. I mean, the bridge is a perfect example.
Yeah. Angus, do you want to contribute anything?
So, obviously, we've had a number of discussions. There's been a sustainability issue in my office for 7.5 years. You said work up to 60 hours. I think it's probably more like average 60. I mean, up to is like every waking hour for weeks at a time. There's times I work 35 days in a row without having a weekend day off. And routinely working 12 to 14-hour days, even 16-hour days. 2-night meetings is the minimum. It's often 3 or even 4 nights. So I don't see my family. You know all this, but I don't know if people believe that. I don't know if they care, but it's all true. And it definitely takes a toll, taking a toll on my health, taking a toll on my family. And I've tried to kind of keep everything going for a long time, and I think I have, and I think I'll continue to do that, but it is not sustainable. And we've had a number of staff in the finance administration offices who have said like, it's too much. And so, but we try to respond to the community, and we try to do everything we're asked to do, or at least within reason. As you said, Wendy, the board has tried very hard to establish a work plan and establish something that is actually scaling the initiatives to capacity rather than taking on everything when it's been well documented that, if you take on too much, balls get dropped. That's just anyone knows that. And so I think the HR function is something that, as you know, gets more complex every year. There's new regulations, there's new mandates, and myself, Rebecca, Jenny, and Caitlin Gilbert, we all have, like you said, a piece of it. And so we spend time coordinating, but I did meet with that team earlier this week to review this concept, and to a person, we all felt it would be very helpful. And I mean, I would hesitate to estimate the number of hours just in the last week that I've spent in HR things, and even today. It's a daily impact on time. It's not something that we talk in specifics about for obvious reasons. It's but it's something that is constantly competing with everything else we're asked to do. And, you know, when the public's looking for you to do this project, and it's like, well, yeah, but I have to do this, but you can't really tell them, well, what you have, it's a strain, and, so, yeah, I think it would be very helpful. One other thing I would just offer to Chris's point is, there's a tremendous backlog of work, because while we do, you know, I think we do a very good job, and we've done more with amending the town's personnel policies in the 7 years I've been here than they had done for 20 years prior to that. The fact is, when I started in 2018, the select board that hired me had a list of projects and priorities. There was not anything on there about bringing the town bylaws and policies into consistency with the Town Manager Act. So the town adopted a brand new form of government, essentially a town charter. It's not in fact a town charter, but it's effectively a town charter, and did not amend bylaws or policies to make it consistent. There were a couple of very superficial amendments to the town bylaws, to change the word finance director to the word town manager. So very superficial, just kind of cut and paste type things. But at a structural level, you know, there were issues that were evident to me on day one in the personnel policies that continue to reflect the select board form of government. We have tackled things, you know, a couple here and there. As you know, we've done a number of amendments over the 7 years. But in 2018, I started putting in writing to the then select board, this needs focused attention. This is going to take hundreds of hours. And it never, until frankly, you became chair, it was not something prior boards really, you know, they read my memos, they understood, but it was always, you know, the time always was directed toward other things, and not by the boards specifically, by the community, by the, you know, COVID-19 was an enormous setback. People will never know. You know, there were like 6 of us in this building for a period of 9 months who ran like, there were like a half dozen of us in the whole building for a set period of time. So that was a huge setback. And so doing that backlog of getting to where the policies are all internally consistent. I mean, I could go on and on, but one example is for many years prior to when I started, the town did not extend written offer letters, which was totally unacceptable. So we started doing that. The town didn't have a documented process when someone's job classification changed, whether their pay changed, their title changed, their job description. There wasn't a formal documentation of separation of service. Ideally, the payroll software was updated, but there wasn't like a form. Where I had been the manager up north, we had a payroll change form. Every time there was any change, even if it was a COLA at the end of the year, I would sign up and then, you know, 60 forms at the end of every fiscal year. And those would go in the person's personnel file. There was a meticulous record keeping. And that was a town that didn't have much more staff than we had. They were just operated like a well-oiled machine, a really good team. We didn't have that when I started. There was no personnel action form. It wasn't until we hired Jenny and Stephanie right around the same time, we really started to put in place things that were frankly remedial steps that to be quite frank, I was horrified at what I inherited when I got to this town from a baseline operation. So, you know, I've done what I could. My team has done what they could. This board has done what they can. But there are hundreds of hours of policies that need to be rewritten or need to be put in place. And I think, you know, you guys have a pretty good working list of the backlog. So I don't think the person would be bored. I do think when your suggestion of integrating some finance responsibilities would be very smart and very foresighted, especially given that we know we are going to have some transition planning, continuity of operations planning with the town accountant. Thankfully, we did execute a new contract with the town accountant, which is wonderful. That's a 3-year contract, and because of, you know, I don't think this is speaking out of turn, you know, that will be her last contract. She will be retiring after that. So she does the job of 2 people. We all know that, and has had for 6 years. So bulking up to finance where we have just a single full-time admin for accounting and treasurer collector. They do a great job. They do a fantastic job, but they are busy every minute of every day, and it doesn't leave a lot of bandwidth for. And I include in that things like grant management, you know, at any given time, we're managing about 50 grants. Some of those are the high profile 6-figure grants. Some of those are the recurring council on aging grants, the cultural council grants, the E911 grants, of which there are 70. So there's a lot, and
I think there's also an opportunity to extend into police and fire personnel management, you know, that it all be under consistent.
no question, yeah, the fact there continue to be different appointing authorities. You know, we've worked really hard to ensure consistency on how jobs are posted, how applications are tracked, that there's acknowledgement of receipts. You know, that there's a methodical process, that offer letters are written in a uniform way, whether the appointing authority is the town manager or the library director or the select board or one of the other elected boards, which appoints personnel. So, you know, we've done what we can with that fragmented process, but it takes a lot of coordination. And you mentioned public safety, even though I'm the appointing authority, for instance, for dispatch, and you're the appointing authority for police, the administration of that process, the interviews, the hiring process. Very often I have had Rebecca sit in on those interviews, so at least my office is represented, but you know, I don't have the bandwidth to be actively part of those interviews. So having an HR person who could focus on that full time would be a tremendous benefit.
Yeah, so logistical question, if we move forward with this, in the Town Manager Act, it specifically says the town manager is responsible for direction of all these HR functions. Is it adequate if that person reports to you so that we don't have to change the language of the Town Manager Act?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's everything in the Town Manager Act is couched by, you know, pursuant to policy established by the
Okay,
board.
okay.
Everything goes back to the board in the Town Manager Act. And I've said this multiple times in public meetings over the years, but it's kind of funny that the Town Manager Act, in fact, vested much more authority in the select board than the select board ever had before, which is one of the things that I know because I've studied it, and I've said it many times. I don't know how many people in the community know that, but that is a fact.
So what would the next steps be then?
So, I think, you know, Chris obviously raised a really important question of whether this would be, in lieu of or somehow in addition to project management. I think there's a couple of ways to look at that. So, you know, I have some thoughts. It would be premature tonight to get into, but we can bring that forward at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And talk about, you know, how is there a way to address this while also sustaining, some supplemental capacity on project management.
Mhm.
So that's something we can talk about further. The mechanics, if the board wanted to create a new position, and it's within the approved budget, would be to amend the salary and wage schedule that was approved back in June for FY 27. Or I'm sorry, for FY 26. And you also had, as part of last year's budget presentation, an org chart. It's actually right there behind you on the table. So we would amend the org chart. You would be asked to vote to amend the org chart and vote to amend the salary wage schedule. And that would effectively create the new position and we'd go forward.
Okay. Anything else? That's Chris.
Yeah, the funding. Probably not in the budget because we hadn't anticipated it, but there's money left from the project manager position that has been expended.
Correct,
So that could cover anticipating the balance of the fiscal year.
correct.
Another, when I was looking at the job description, you talked police and fire, just the way our government is so fragmented, can HR? I don't know where these authorities lie, you know, they've generally done their own HR. Right, see, there's all these.
Up to a point,
Right.
that has been going on, but no, at this point, my office has been much more involved with the postings. There are certain aspects that are still being managed.
No, no, I'm not just
No,
writing
no,
it down,
no.
but any, all those other
I think if we
entities.
look at this person to identify these issues and if there's something that needs to be resolved,
A
then
lot of them are identified,
yeah,
it's
I
just,
just mean in.
Right.
Yeah.
to address them.
Right.
But
Yeah, it's just not as clean and crisp as the job description, which is gonna be a lot of sorting out who can do what and where and how and when and with who, so.
Right,
And there will be feathers ruffled.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I mean, I know what all the questions are. I know what, well, I mean, there will be more, but literally since 2018, I kept on running track of, you know, including the process of amending job descriptions. And at one point back in, I think 20, you know, a couple of years in my tenure, we did get a written opinion from town council on that very question, because it's not in the personnel policies, and there wasn't anything in writing, and to this day, there's not. But we have a legal opinion, and we rely on that, and that's.
But hearing all the functions you just referenced, which I really hadn't thought of, and then seeing they can help write some of the town warrant articles and things, I think it's a long overdue position. Like I said, I feel negligent that I hadn't thought of it before. I'm glad it was brought up. I think it's I'll favor it. Yeah, however the process works to make it go forward.
Okay, so the next item is follow up on the proposed revisions to the FY 26 town work plan. So we talked about all of these at the last meeting. I just added them to the table, and then indicated if they'd been carried over or changed from another. Did you have any, did I get everything there, Chris, or did you find anything that I?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the three that were highlighted as follow up.
Yeah, so those were ones that I said I was gonna follow up on, but just in terms of what was carried over, did you see anything?
I didn't look to cross reference it. But
Yeah,
think
I
we
looked
had
at the
like this.
minutes, as well as my notes, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a mistake, we can correct it out. So the three items that I was asked to follow up on, was the River Road Resiliency Planning Project, the library's master plan, and the fire department, structure review. So, the River Road Resiliency, project, I did reach out to the MVP contact person and told them of the situation, you know, staffing wise, and that we would like to, delay the project until FY 27. And at first she said that that could be worked out, and then she called me back, after and said that actually, you know, that it could not work out, so. What we would have to do is do as much as we could in this year, and then anything that wasn't done, we could only do up to the already agreed on dollar amount for next year. So I don't think that's an efficient way to go, because, you know, the whole scope is based on generating alternatives to and analyze them. So, and it was very front loaded in FY 26, and we're already, you know, 6 months into FY 26, and we haven't even,
Right up to bid.
yeah, so. I did, like I said, I went to the CCRC meeting and just kind of briefed them on this. I think there's three options. One is to withdraw from the grant, which I confirmed with MVP that they would allow. Second is to try to change the scope, of the work so that it would fit within the time we have left and the dollars, for the second year. And then the third is to just try to push through, get the RFQ out, and, you know, RFP, and, you know, just try to make it work. So, Liz is here. Did you wanna comment, Liz?
Yeah, if I could.
Yeah.
I'm Liz Callahan. I'm the chair of the town's Climate Change Resiliency Committee. Wendy said I could have 2 minutes to address this question or this action that the town's considering taking with respect to this grant for River Road project. So the Climate Change Resiliency Committee has been working with the town for the past year to advance this resiliency project. And as the select board knows, the CCRC has been consistent and clear in urging the town to act on this opportunity that it now has. The town received $427,000 state grant that the town has accepted. And this funding provides a chance to move forward on this project over the next 18 months. In doing so, the town will gain critical information it needs for both immediate term and long term by identifying what options there are to maintain access and safety along the 2 miles of River Road and to protect what's an exceptional natural resource and the public access around on our Merrimack River shoreline. For more than 20 years, since River Road was first identified as a high-risk area in the town's hazard mitigation plan, there's been a tendency to view this as a problem that can be deferred in favor of other priorities, competing priorities, which arise each year. That perception's understandable when conditions worsen gradually over decades, but the reality today is different. This is no longer a future problem, it's a present and escalating one. The Department of Public Works is already responding to the erosion along River Road on an emergency basis, placing riprap along the shoreline to address immediate threats. The undercutting of the roadway in multiple locations is well documented, and it's widely acknowledged that a severe weather event could result in failure of the road. So without a clear understanding of site conditions and viable mitigations options, the town is at risk of being forced into costly reactive decisions under emergency conditions. The $427,000 the town has accepted by the state offers an opportunity for us to obtain actionable information on the road conditions that could be put to use in the event of an emergency repair. It's an opportunity to benefit from the expertise of road engineers that have the assistance of state regulators in determining what options can mitigate the threats both in the immediate and long term. As a concentrated effort, it will put us years ahead of where we could be if we were to take an iterative approach, and importantly, it will be done with hard to come by state funding and state regulatory assistance. Now, the CCRC understands, and we do appreciate the select board's concerns about the limited town staff resources available to manage this project. And that's why we have repeatedly recommended that the town apply a portion of the grant funds, which can include up to 10% of the grant that the state allows to be put towards administrative costs, and the $60,000 approved as matching funds for this project at town meeting, to hire a managing consultant for this project. An experienced managing consultant, such as the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, could serve as a single point of coordination for this project. It could track deliverables, milestones, monitor compliance, manage budget, manage the engineers and other contractors, organize meetings with regulators, and manage the public outreach. We encourage the town to trust that a qualified paid team of professionals under the oversight of a managing consultant has the expertise to carry this project to successful conclusion. And the alternative is continued emergency mitigation, ongoing and increasing risk of road failure, and the loss of this significant funding opportunity to finally move forward on what has been recognized for nearly 2 decades as a high hazard that needs to be addressed by the town. And I just want to add that the CCRC committee, which includes people with expertise in this area, is available to assist in getting the procurement bid documents put together to whatever extent that might be helpful.
So I think that the challenge here is that even if we put the RFQ out tomorrow, we would only have 3 months of this year to actually do the work, and the bulk of the work is in year 1. So I just don't see logistically how it can happen. I don't know what your thoughts are, Chris. I mean, especially if we don't have an in-house, because you can't just hire somebody outside. Somebody else has to also, do the financial tracking and all of that.
I feel like we've been treading water on it for a long time with an inability to do it, and then we lost Christine. I feel like we should have pulled the plug on it back then, to be honest. And then be another 3 or 4 months into the year, and we don't even have a ability to go up to bid. It's just, I don't know how it's gonna get pulled off.
Another option is to try to revise the scope, but I just think that's time intensive, and there's no guarantee the state will accept the revised scope. What they approved was,
We already did that once.
yeah. So,
When did I ask the question?
sure.
In revising the scope, could that also include taking items that can't be completed in the window we have this year and pushing them into next year?
That's what I proposed to her, and at first she said yes, and then came back and said no. So we would be limited in year 2 to the 175,000, roughly. So that will determine the scope. We'd have to modify the scope and figure out what we could do that was this year, next year. But then it still has to meet the original intent, the overall objective, which was an alternatives analysis. So it really, I don't think it's practical or possible for us to rescope it to meet the schedule and the costs for year 2. So. Yeah, I think this is a hard decision. If we could have moved this to the next half of the, to fiscal year, first half of fiscal year 27, I think it would work out fine. But the thing with grants is we're on their timeline, we don't control it anymore, and, I'm sure they're aware of staffing shortages and the challenge. I mean, they were 3 months late in awarding it, so we lost 3 months, at the top.
I think. I would just suggest we go back with a more specific request of what could and could not be done. And see what they say to that.
What she said is you can change the scope, but it has to fit within the same dollar amounts for each fiscal year. So I don't see that there's anything else we can ask of them.
But a lot of just the information gathering, for example, on geotechnical work could be done in that period of time and meet that dollar amount. So those kinds of things could be done. It concerns me that this is on the agenda tonight as a change in a work plan, when it's really a decision to forego such a large grant amount. And I think that's maybe not sufficiently transparent about the decision that is being made here.
So you would like to have it be a standalone item on the agenda? Would that change anything?
It would provide notice on really what this decision, the consequences of this decision, because this is a significant amount of funding that without it, if the town were to move forward with this project, we'd have to come up with that funding itself.
I do just want to say that this is a study. After this will come design, we're 10 years, even if we go forward with this, we're 10 years away from doing anything on River Road, so.
But those 10 years are never gonna get closer.
Right.
The more we push this.
But one option is to just respond, as you said, in a reactive manner when things come up, we fix them, so. That is an option. So I don't want to get into a back and forth.
I know.
This is a workload issue, if this workload situation wasn't a reality, we would not be talking about moving it to the next time. So, we have a couple other ones to discuss. How do you want to move forward on these?
I don't know. I mean, I just, I don't think the town has the ability to do it and perform. What happens if you get a year into this thing and you don't complete, and the state's not gonna look favorably on any future grants? I think you're sort of doing yourself more of a disservice to go forward with it.
All right, so what I would recommend is, all right, I guess, what do you think about the fact that it's not a standalone agenda item? Do you feel like we need to put it on a future agenda and formally? I mean, we've had this conversation over like several times already about this grant, so
It's not gonna make it any better if you do that, just delays the process further.
right.
The only reason I might be in favor of that is to have Ross here and have his input. I think for the two of us to sit there and make this whole decision. And if there is, I don't know how there's any clarity that it was not on the agenda for this, but you could mitigate that problem too, so. I don't know,
I just feel like that's kicking the can down the road again.
it is, like I said, it won't make it any better, but it'll just,
All right, so is that what you want to do?
I don't wanna make the decision and have people upset that they didn't know that this was where we were going.
I know, so
So
I'm saying, is that what you wanna do, delay it to January eighth?
I think that would be the most favorable thing.
Okay. Right, second one was the library facilities master plan project, and, I did meet with Corinne, could you pull up the, so the question on this, again, was, can we slide this out 6 months?
We're talking about.
The table that Corinne sent, yesterday, I think. Um. Yeah, so the planning board is doing a comprehensive plan visioning process right now, so that's a huge procurement, effort. So my thought was if we could stagger it so that we're not doing the library one at the same time, that would be ideal, and Corinne and I went over the schedule that the library director, and yeah.
And let me just do a screen share in just a second.
So they did an excellent job here, just kind of, pushing it out to see who would be involved and, look at the kind of overall timeline. One concern with this that Corinne and I discussed is the activities 1 through 10, that's not how the RFQ will actually happen. There's a very prescribed process with a, committee appointed by the CPO. But I think it just gives a sense of the timeline involved. I think it's possible we could delay the submitting or posting the RFQ until March. We kind of work through the timeline, and then that would get us to a spring town meeting. If we're gonna move forward with design, but. So I think this will work, Fred, Corinne, I don't know if you wanna.
Yeah, I think, there were 3 of us that worked on this and, we're certainly cognizant of the staffing issues that have been discussed at length tonight. And we're certainly interested in trying to dovetail our efforts with the town's expectations, the board's expectations, and then what you say is feasible in terms of, and what Angus's staff is feasible. Personally, I don't want to be in a position to have to be at Springtown meeting and saying nothing's happened. So I think that if it would help to move the RFQ out a couple months, that still gives us the opportunity to say to the town, you gave us the money, the board has given matching funds or more, and here's where we are in the process. We are fairly far along, as you know, in the RFQ development. I mean, the working group worked on it and then it's been, I saw basically what's the final copy ready to go. But that's just the beginning of the process. And so,
So it sounds like we're saying the same thing. If we target March to put the RFQ out, 6 to 9 months to do the work, we're still gonna have the results in time for FY 27 Springtown meeting, if there is a desire to go for design at that point.
yeah, my only concern is since I represent the board, I know the board was looking at 1st December and January 15th, but I think that the work here suggests that maybe, although I hate to submarine the board's expectations, Sandy's here so she can report on my what I do. I think given everything I've heard, March 15th that would be okay. What we had initially heard was that the RFQ wouldn't go out even till next fiscal year, and that was too long. So I think that March 15th is a good target date.
Yeah, Corinne and I looked back from the town meeting in FY 27, so 9, yeah.
As did we.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out is that the library board and subcommittees that can be appointed are very interested and happy to help do some of the work as appropriate. So that there's the least possible impact on town staff and on the select board. We have people that are very anxious to lend a hand, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's more like the procurement process that's, being managed And so if we can not have 3 procurements going at the same time, that would be ideal.
Okay,
So,
so,
all right, so then that can stay on this 6-month time frame, but with the understanding that's pushed out towards March.
yeah, March 15th is a good target date.
And so did Corinne share with you that the select board has to formally designate the CPO as the contracting authority for this?
Yeah,
So that'll be at a meeting in January.
yeah, but it's also true, just to make sure that I understand that that person, even though they have designated responsibilities, can rely upon a committee to help at certain stages of that process.
Well, the committee is appointed as part of the RFP.
Right.
It's,
And that's where we would see our efforts to help out for sure.
but that would be a broader committee than the library trustees. That would be,
Whatever it ends up being.
yeah, it's an advisory committee that the CPO would appoint, yeah. And I think we did specify roles in the RFP.
Yeah, in the RFQ, it's got the composition, so it'd be the same thing that was talked about, like,
And my only comment on that is, I think things have become more acute in terms of staffing problems. Since that language was drafted last spring or early
But-
summer, so,
We would rather.
but it's fine the way that,
The right staff on a timeframe we can accommodate.
it's fine the way it is.
Okay, good. All right, anything else on that, Chris? Okay.
A good deal.
All right, so, and then the fire department was the other one, they did meet and I have not heard back about how that went. I really think that the select board needs to be pretty involved with
We've been in the
this.
dark one. I know nothing
know,
other than
so-
constant.
If you are okay with this, I would reach out to Chief Dwyer and say, I'd like to delay this until after, till FY 27.
I think that's fine. I think it's obviously delayed already because there is no information to act on at this point.
Wendy, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
I'm sorry that I did not see that Corinne was on. Would it be okay if we just asked her if she had anything to comment on?
Sure.
Corinne, are you there?
I am, thank you. I don't have anything to comment on. I'm happy with March 15th as a target date. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks. Okay. All right, I probably didn't have time, okay. Item G is approval of select board minutes. So,
Both reviewed them already, correct?
yeah, let me just pull them.
Great.
This is on the 11/16 ones, Ags, I just had a question for you. This is on updates, item C. Update from annual property casualty.
Yes,
So I don't, the overall has been simplified and cleaned up over time, I don't understand what that.
yeah, that's, I think, yeah, I saw your note, what in fact has happened, I would not say simplified, I would say maybe more accurate. So the schedules with all the insured properties, we've been working every year, we make that better and better.
Okay.
And it's fully aligned with our
Okay.
assets, so I think cleaned up is accurate. But the verbiage isn't really
Okay,
reflective, so.
I remember hearing cleaned up in the meeting, so that's why I didn't change it.
I didn't recall what that meant.
Yeah,
so.
nothing about insurance has become more simple in the last year, I promise you.
Okay,
No amendment required or just.
no, I just wanted to ask that
Make
question.
a motion.
I would say simplified and should be struck and just say could have been cleaned up over time.
All right,
Make a motion to approve the minutes of November 13th as amended.
all right, second. All in favor? On the December 4th, it was just, I think, correcting from the redlining. On town manager updates, item S. Says Middle Street Bridge construction continues, but there may be. These costs. Okay, I guess that's fine. Yeah, and then on page 4, I had a question, this is on the planning board, for the comp plan visioning.
Which minutes are you on? I lost.
I just number 4.
Only 3 pages. Oh, no, that's wrong stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So it says the CPO will be the signatory on the contract. This is what I was asking about before the meeting. This is not a designer selection contract, right?
Correct.
So is that accurate to say that the CPO is the,
Yep, under the contract policy procurement that is subject to 30B, the CPO is the
Okay.
signatory.
okay,
So the only reason the select board would have to specifically designate, such as with the library, is under designer selection, which, as you know, is a separate section of Mass General Law than 30B.
okay,
And that's governed, just for those watching, there is a procurement policy on the town website on designer selection, and that's consistent with state law, and that's what we follow for anything to do with architects, basically.
right,
Make a motion to accept the minutes of December 4th as submitted.
second, in favor.
Aye.
Okay. Next item, so moving on to discussion items. Item A is consideration of a request from ECTA regarding whether an easement across town hall property runs to the benefit of equestrians and the general public. So I'm just going to kind of frame this discussion and then ask ECTA members to provide their requests. And then I know other people are interested, and so we'll take comments from other people as well. So this has to do with an ECTA easement that was granted on a property next to the town hall lot. That person moved, and then there are now new owners of the property. There's some disagreement about where the easement ends. Although we're interested and concerned about that, that's not really what we're acting on tonight. We are acting on whether we should allow ECTA to have equestrian traffic from that easement go across the town hall parking lot. Is that a fair summary, Chris? Okay. So do you want to, whoever is going to speak, you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Wendy. My name is Martha Sanders. I'm chair of the board at Essex County Trail Association. And I think you framed it well. I'm just gonna give a little bit of background about it's referred to, I've seen it referred to as an easement, also as a right of way on the old town hall property. Apparently, it was established in the 1940s to give the abutters access to Route 113. And then, excuse me, in the late 60s, so it was originally put on, I don't know if it's the north or east side of that property. It's about 15 feet wide, and it goes straight from the back of the property to out to Main Street. It was moved in the 60s to the other side of the property. And it's been the understanding, it's our impression, it's been the understanding that the reason this right of way was originally created was to provide safe passage for horses. Because the neighbors have horses, the neighbors, the people who own the property next door currently have horses. And it would make sense that there be a way to get out to and potentially across from Route 113. There's a crosswalk there, it goes directly to Bailey's Lane. But the Ellen and Jack Alden, who owned the property at 495 in the late 2000s, I think it was 2008, they asked Don Borghardt, who was a local trail expert, if he would draw a map of easement possibilities, because they had horses they were used to riding to, they could get to Pipestave from their property, and saw the value of that to other riders on the other side of 113, and wanted to create a trail that again would create safe passage for horses coming across Route 113, being able to get on their property and get to, what is now Sawmill Brook and Mill Pond and Pipestave. So they asked Don Borghardt to draw a map. I had provided that to you. It shows two trails. One of them goes up what was their driveway at the time and out to 113. And the other one went the way it does currently, which goes to, it's, the map doesn't currently show that, but it's supposed to go to the edge of the old town hall property and continue on that right of way through and provide, again, safe passage across 113. When Don created this map, and certainly when the Aldens created the easement, the understanding was that there was an ability to use this property for equestrian use. And I think that it was their impression that this is the reason that this right of way existed. So, this brings us to today. The Alden sold their house. They created the easement in 2010, going to the old town hall property and beyond from there. And since the property 495 was then sold in 2015, and there has been a dispute because the map doesn't show the trail going exactly to the edge of the property. That dispute has led us to come to you to try to determine what exactly is the status of this right of way and our ability, horseback riders' ability to use it. The existence of our easement, which is for horses only, on the property at 495 Main Street is predicated on the ability to have safe passage across Route 113. That's the whole purpose of it. And I think there is another way to get to the trails that now lead to Mill Pond, Sawmill Brook, Mill Pond, and Pipestave through Mike Crow's property at Major Boyd Drive. This would be fine for all other trail users, and in fact, those trails are open to all trail users. But it was judged that it would be dangerous for horses to either ride down the side of 113 around a corner to get to Major Boyd Drive, or really any other way. There, I think because there's a corner there, even if they took Training Field Road, they'd still have to cross 113, and it's not a good place. There's no good place in that location for people on horseback safely to do that. So we are here tonight. I'm here with Carol Lloyd, the Director of Trail Management and Maintenance, and we're here to hopefully confirm that there is that equestrian use of this right of way is allowed, and that we may have this easement used in the way that it was intended, which is again, providing us a safe route for horses across 113. Anything you want to add?
So, so where are the horses coming from that they need to cross through the town parking lot? I guess that's the piece that I don't
That was my
understand.
question too.
Yeah,
So there have been farms in the past, there have been horses on the other side of 113 in the past, and there are trails there. Properties change hands and situations changed. My colleague, Deb Hamilton, who wears many hats in this town, one of the hats she wears for us is that she's on the board at Essex County Trail Association, so she's familiar with this, and she also is familiar with the trails and who lives there and what the possibilities are. So I think that from our standpoint, we have a legal easement on the other side of the old town hall property. And the Aldens had reached out to us a few months ago and said, the trail's not being used and we really would like to see this used in the way that we intended it. They've provided us with an affidavit to clarify their intention that this was meant for people to go through and be able to safely cross the road.
so I mean, in the easement language, it says for neighbor question, right?
I don't,
Access to abutting properties. Yeah, so
it does.
So I assume that meant abutting to the easement. Are you thinking it means across Main Street and Bailey's Lane?
No, the intention was for it to lead to the next property being the old town hall property, with the understanding that there was an ability, that there was a right of way that
Okay,
they could utilize. So it doesn't directly bring anyone out to 113. We're relying on the old town hall property to give riders the chance to go through. And I want to just make one more comment. We're talking about a very small number of people, but especially now because there aren't. I don't get the impression that there are a lot of horses on the other side of 113 who would be regularly crossing. But occasionally myopia might go through. I mean, it's just, we would like to establish that someone is able to do it. I think it would happen. It would be seldom, it would certainly not be often, and at certain times, 6 months out of the year wouldn't happen at all.
okay. So I think right away we should address the issue of the right of way. I mean, that, we've consulted counsel on that. Do you wanna share that?
Sure, yeah, I think, yeah, with the references to easement and right of way, where the easement on the abutting property, right of way on the town property, I can understand it gets, you know, can get messy, so. We have exhaustively researched the right of way across the town hall lot. I think you mentioned it went back to the 40s. It was actually 1923. It was first established. We've got the kind of chain of title of when it first appeared and every subsequent conveyance. This is the first appearance was in a conveyance from, I believe, 1923. So it was reserving to the grantor, and the grantor, by the way, was the from that. And let me do a screen share for the restore remote.
What is going on?
It's nothing more fun than. So the grantor of this easement was the owner of this property, which is currently this Desario. So the first conveyance was in 1923. Reserving to the grantor, now Desario, and his or her heirs and assigns a right of way 15 feet wide along the easterly boundary of the granted premises, which connects with the right of way across the townhouse lot of the town of West Newbury along its easterly boundary to Main Street. And said private way is to be used for passing and repassing for all purposes by the grantee and his or her heirs and assigns, as well as by the grantor and his or her heirs and assigns. And it refers to this this plan, which you see here. So I emphasize eastern side of the property because at that time it was shown on the eastern edge of the property, and the configuration of the town hall lot was different than what you see here. It's since become more of this triangular lot, which is marked up here. So we trace this all through every conveyance through the chain of title, right up until, and we did find within that, there was in the 1960s, I think it was like 1968. 1968, the location of the right of way was moved from the easterly side of the town hall lot to the westerly side, which is where it exists now. So it is a right of way, it is 15 feet, but the purpose for which it was conveyed has always used that same language. It's to the benefit of the grantee and his or her heirs and assigns for passing and repassing. Said private way to be used for passing and repassing for all purposes by the grantee and his heirs or assigns. So we did, prior to this question coming up, we had a separate question that had come up, and we've been working with the direct abutter on that. And we've referred all this to town council, and town council did give us a clear opinion earlier this fall that the existing 15-foot right of way does not grant public rights. It grants rights to Desario and her heirs and sons. So that's why when we later in the fall got the request from ACTA, we notified Desario as the owner, because while the town owns the land, Desario has rights within a 15 feet easement. So those property rights need to be balanced, and essentially town council's opinion, which was conveyed in a letter that we sent to Desario, I think back in September, October, was that the town has rights to use the right of way as long as the town's usage does not unreasonably interfere with the Sardi's rights. So it's a balancing of rights. And the advice that given to ACTA coming into tonight was that two things. One is this is on for discussion. It is not on for action tonight. Because this is the first time the board is hearing about it and it's a complex matter. But secondly, the select board doesn't have the right to convey an interest in property. Anything that would convey a durable right of public access would need to be a town meeting vote. There's a lot more paper in the packet, but hopefully that's a good synopsis.
So I know we did get a few emails to the select board email address. I don't know if anybody online or that's present wants to speak.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm an equestrian here too, and I have a horse and a couple of goats that are gonna be less than 2 feet from this right of way. Which is not a good thing for me, makes me nervous. But I have prepared a 2-minute speech. And here we go. So again,
Okay.
I'm Donna Desario. I live at 487 Main Street of West Newbury, and I do not support the opening of the right of way on town hall land for public access. The town hall parcel and right of way does not, to my understanding, abut the Ector Trail, which is for equestrian abutters only, and is landlocked, because I have recently, in the last 3 years, bought the land that comes right up to that easement. They would have to cross my property to get to that easement unless something else is suggested. So, opening the access up that's not connected to the trail as of yet will encourage people unknowingly to trespass. In the past, people in town illegally accessed the trail and a number of times fed my animals without permission, and at one time becoming sick, and veterinarians had to come in. So that's my main concern. I don't believe that the end of the trail ever went to town hall. And I'm gonna tell you why I think that. The right of way was originally designed for 487 Main Street to access the backyard with a large vehicle. As the owners of 487 Main Street sold part of the land to the town, and that was part of the agreement. I'm gonna sell you this land, I need access, and they allowed it, and it's in the deed today. So, as an abutter to the trail for 18 years and neighbor to Ellen Alden for 10 years or so, she made it so clear to me on several occasions that her easement was for equine abutters only. Additionally, she told me she did not want the neighbor on the other side of her because they'll probably go buy a horse, and I don't want anybody out there. Based on past conversations with Ellen, she had no intention to open the access to the town. I believe that is why she did not bring the trail to town hall property line. We all know she's singing in a different tune right now because she doesn't live there. In the past, I was approached by Deb Hamilton, representing ECTA, with a request I donate a portion of my land to ECTA so they could access the trailhead. I said no, and her response was, well, there's more than one way to skin that cat. So here we go. The use of the town hall parking lot. The new Deer Run subdivision allows unrestricted passive trail access to the public along Major Boyd Drive and to the lot line. There is less than 0.1 mile between town hall parking lot and Major Boyd Drive. Is that clear? Less than 0.1.
So you can see it on the map there.
Town hall parking lot, so, I'm sorry, the safety issue with traffic has been an issue on 113, and it's something that's coming down the pipe. With that in common, it's difficult for me to walk across where we're talking about with my dog. People are whizzing by, okay? So what I wanna say lastly is between the Learning Tree daycare, which the line of cars that line up there go around their building and out in front of my property twice a day. And town hall gatherings, library activities, and hired contractors working for me, farriers, veterinarians, make for a very busy lot. The demand on town hall parking lot, which I've lived next to for 18 years, has reached its capacity, in my opinion. I would strongly request that the select board deny this application. Thank you.
If anybody online wants to speak, if you could just put your hand up so that I can, do that.
Good evening, Valerie Gingrich, 495 Main Street. My wife and I bought the property in 2017 from the Aldens. It's just to the left of the town property. I'd like to give a little bit of context for your discussion tonight. There is, as you know, there's an equestrian trail easement on our property. It starts out in the backyard. It heads through the woods and then goes to the Deer Run development. Per the recorded easement map, which is on the screen right now, and the coordinates that ECTA provided to us, that equestrian trail easement does not reach the town hall property. It's about 29 feet short. I do have if you're really interested in those, dimensions and things, I do have a sketch of that. But between the trail easement and the town hall property is a fence along our property line that the Aldens put in over 20 years ago, and is property owned by Donna, our neighbor. So if you were trying to get from the town hall lot to the trail easement, you couldn't go through the fence, so you'd have to trespass on Donna's land to get there. And so I bring this up because recently ECTA's attorney sent us a letter threatening litigation. They would like the trail easement to extend to the town hall property. It forced us to have to hire an attorney to defend our property. The easement was created in 2010 by the Aldens, and they controlled the property, had the easement in place for 7 years before they sold it to us in 2017. During that time, they did not take any action to extend the trail, and they certainly didn't disclose any issue with the easement to us when they sold the property to us. So now they want the trail extended to the town hall property, essentially trying to take over a piece of our property that we actively use to grow food. And I wanted to provide that context just for the board. I know that it's not your thing to solve, but for the conversation, I'm sure you'll also talk about the daycare use and equestrian use and whether those things are compatible on the pretty small parking lot and lot that exists at town hall. And whether there's safety concerns, maintenance concerns, and liability concerns that come up with mixing those two uses with very large horses and the daycare use. Happy to answer any questions you might have for me, and thank you for your time. Thanks.
So a question for you, Martha, are you asking to use the right of way, or are you asking to use the non-right of way part of the parking lot? I know Angus asked that question, and I don't think it's been answered. What exactly are you looking for?
My assumption was that the right of way would be what we would use. I know that there's a long stretch that goes along a fence, part of it is stockade fence that's grassy, and then it narrows and it's tighter at the.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so you see the lines have been painted on there to mark where the right of way is. That's to prevent the daycare parents from parking there and blocking Donna's access. So based on what Angus read from right of way language, that's not our right to grant. So that's why I want to know exactly what you're looking for, because if it is that, we can't grant that to you. That's under Donna's control. If you're looking to use the parking lot, I would also have concerns just for the reasons that Valerie mentioned. We have a tenant in that building, and they have rights I am also just concerned about the amount of traffic in that area. Chris, I don't know if you have any comments or questions for people and.
Well, when Angus said a few minutes ago, this would be a town meeting issue, pretty much takes the wind out of our sails as to what we can do.
Mhm.
I, no, I had the first question you did, where are the horses coming from and why is it such a odd issue? What a convoluted mess, though. I mean, why are the, Gingrich and Alden even in the discussion? It's got nothing really to do with this. It's whether they can use the right of way. And that right of way gets specific right to Desarian. It's that simple. So
Yeah.
I don't see it any differently than that. And I think it would be kind of risky for the town to grant that as the right of way for passage of horses with the daycare in there with traffic and very narrow egress in and out already, so. Just another note too, there's a study gonna be done on this part of the road, I believe.
It is, yeah, as you know, we completed the conceptual design last fiscal year, and we've received an earmark in the current year state budget to advance that to the next level of design. It's just a concept, so it's just starts the process, but the focus is this crossing, which is known to be
I think it's to say the town understands there are issues with the safety of the crossing as it is, and we're looking to improve on it.
That's right, yeah, the concept calls for relocating the crosswalk and adding the push button rapid flashing beacons. As you know, that's gonna be a multi-year design and engineering process subject to funding.
But the intent is to move the crossing.
The concept calls for moving the crosswalk further away from the curve, more to align with the front of the library.
Okay. So given that we can't really grant rights to the right of way, is this a voting matter for us?
I don't really think it is. I mean, I was very intentional in the wording I chose in my write-up, which is that I really see this as. Because you don't have the right to grant permissions that would need to go to town meeting. The question is really, would you consent and not make an issue of it essentially? Because I think people cross town properties all the time.
But if they're asking specifically for the right of way, which we don't have any authority over.
Well, it's not that you don't have any authority, you own the land, but
Right.
it's burdened, it's encumbered by a right of way to the benefit of Desario. So it's a balancing of interests, and it is, we know from years of experience, and I know, I'm sure Donna could elaborate. There's that balancing is difficult. There's times that there's competing interests. It's a narrow
Yeah.
stretch.
But moving it and drawing what you.
I think that's helped, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, so we made some changes just this past fall that had been actually on the drawing board for a while, but we didn't want to do it till it was repaved. It was part of last year's paving contract, but the paving contractor ended up not being able to deliver on that part of the scope, so this year we put it in the contract. This lot was repaved, and then Butch went out with his crew and they painted the 15 feet, so it's very clear to all parties, including the parents of the
Can you go
daycare.
back to a comment that Donna made earlier? She said even if you granted the right of way, there was still no connectivity to the trail out back.
Right.
So can you bring up my maps with the lot lines and the. I mean, no sense of granting anything if there's no.
Well, I mean, there is,
Yeah, there are a number of things that have been said recently that are not true, and I'm not sure whether we need to take that up tonight. I actually have a question about the lot in general. Not talking now about the right of way, but the lot in general. What if we limited access to weekends? When the daycare is closed?
then you don't have to use the right of way.
There's a lot of activities that go on the weekends
Yeah.
between the.
Because right now,
library
the sale is being used. So, Angus, are you saying that's a town meeting question?
To actually convey rights
Yeah.
would be a town meeting question.
Yeah.
Essentially, it'd be creation of another easement,
All right, is that what you want to see, Chris?
or the use of the mind map.
So where would the trail be?
So right now, it kind of, you see keep going, keep scrolling
Yeah,
down.
that's it. So
Yeah.
there's a trail, it looks like a trail that's cleared that right along Donna's fence. And
No, that's my land right
Yeah.
next to my fence.
it looks like there's a trail there, but the trail, that our trail is actually to the right. Maybe, I would say 10 or 15 feet, and then it veers off. And I agree that the trail was never properly connected to the town property.
Mhm.
Because there was an opening, a clear opening that everybody was using. And I think it was more a case of the Aldens not bothering. The issue with it being short 20 feet or 29 feet was we had somebody come out and GPS map it. And when he got to the edge of the tree line, he turned it off. Because he was with Ellen, who said, at this point, you can go sort of wherever you want. And it should have been manually drawn, the rest of it on the map, because the intention was to go to the town property lot line. However, the easement language specifically says that it's to access adjoining properties, and if it was meant to dead end on that property, it would have said so in the easement language, and it doesn't. And the Aldens have provided us with an affidavit saying that their intention was for it to go through the town hall property.
But that fence hasn't been moved in 20 years. right?
Yeah, there are a few old posts there, and I think that there's,
It's not a stone wall, it's just.
Yeah, but
yeah,
what I'm saying is it hasn't been moved, so it hasn't been used, that if they hadn't.
that part has not been used. Everyone's been heading through on Donna's property.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
well, you know, the opening that the Aldens have is right where my property.
Well, it's irrelevant, they never connected it, you can't come back and now tell the current owner you're gonna connect the trailer that
Yeah.
doesn't exist, that's. Yeah, not an issue I wanna get involved with, but there is. It makes it kind of. Irrelevant to worry about this right away at this point.
right.
Suggest if they're interested, take it to town meeting, because I don't think we can help.
So how does that help? I don't know this process.
I don't think it does help, I mean,
And if it goes to a town vote, there are gonna be more people say, yeah, let us in.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
anticipate that.
No?
I don't know, we would have to decide if this is something that we wanted to put. up.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't thought it through, but I'm not even sure the mechanics of that, because since there are two parties with property rights to that 15 feet. If, you know. You might even, if it's not a voluntary giving up of rights, it could even get into an eminent
Yeah.
domain.
I'm not suggesting we put it on the warrant. I'm
I'm
saying if the only mechanism is somebody could petition the town for it, right? Anybody can get a number of signatures. I don't think the select board should push it forward, because I wouldn't be supportive of it.
They could, but honestly, even if that happens, the town meeting can. And, you know, approve an action, but as Mike McCarron used to say many, many times. Town meeting can authorize something, the chief executive, the select board still have to take that action. I remember Mike used to say this on land acquisitions. It was tongue in cheek, but it was accurate. He said town meeting can appropriate the funds. The select board still has to buy the land and sign the paperwork. Town meeting is the legislative body, but the select board is the executive. So even if theoretically town meeting, you know, voted to say they wanted to create a public right to pass and repass, the select board would still need to execute that. That doesn't just happen.
I also wanna point out that the major board access goes to the same place,
Mhm.
which is 1.1 mile away from where they're trying to get in.
Yeah, that's now become a public road, it's been accepted as a public road, so, I mean,
And I'm under the impression that the parking of the horse trailers are gonna be on Bailey's Lane. You can't even turn a regular car around in one swing on
Yeah.
Bailey's Lane.
Who's?
Okay.
Who's parking horse trailers?
They just read through, it's not a destination, it's just,
so is
Then
there,
why don't they just go to Pipe Stave or the other place on Major Board?
is there anything new to add to this conversation?
I'm just concerned.
No, I
I understand stuff, and
Yeah.
and how are we leaving it tonight, and that's all I wanna know.
So as Angus said, this is the first time we've discussed it. Typically, we have a discussion and then vote at a following meeting, but it sounds like there's nothing for us to vote on. I'm not in favor of,
I'm not making any motion.
Yeah. so do we need to have another meeting to take a vote? I mean, I would say that, you know, we don't have the ability, or I'm not willing to try to negotiate with the right of way grantee or grantor, whichever one it is, to try to allow access. I mean, I'm more interested in protecting the rights of our tenant on that property than, you know, for ACTA.
So you would, so if the horses, if it's not about the right of way, it's just about riding through, that's not a conversation.
I'm not in support of that. I think that's not.
Got it, addition. My name is Kelly, and Kelly, that's right, own the, elementary preschool. I guess my question is, which is, talking about like riding through, would it be during, you know, my concern obviously is why I'm here, is during school hours and Canada. So I just like to be involved in future emails about it. because
Yeah,
That is a concern. We do have a drop off in the morning and, early afternoon at 12 and 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, in for 12. And then also at 9 in the morning, so passing through during those 4 hours, we're only there 4 hours a day, but passing through that morning is also concerning.
Yeah.
But the cars, the horses.
Yeah. Yeah, the issue with making it weekends only or afternoons only, whatever, somebody's got to police that. I mean, just, I don't know that we want to get into that.
Well, the bigger issue, it doesn't connect to the trails, it's still
Yeah.
irrelevant, so it's a waste of time.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know that you got the answer you wanted. I think you have a sense of how the board feels about this. So if you want to have, you know, more conversations, I'm open to talking. Okay. Is anybody? Second item under discussion is, so this is on a 1980s management plan. Can you pull that up? Yeah. So this is, a letter that was brought to Agnes's attention that nobody was aware of. And this was an agreement between the West Newbury Riding and Driving Club and the then select board. Was this 1980 something? 83, something. And so basically this outlines, it's kind of a management agreement between West Newbury Riding and Driving Club and that select board. And so this has been used to justify the Riding and Driving Club having exclusive rights to the ring and parking if there are equestrian events going on. So we did consult town council on this. One thing to keep in mind is this was agreed to before the conservation restriction and mill pond plan were enacted. So a lot of the assumptions in here are no longer valid because there are, you know, athletic fields and lots of parking and so forth. What town council told us is that this is not like granted rights. This is an agreement between that select board and the Riding and Driving Club. So this would have to be reapproved every time the select board changed. It's essentially a license agreement that represents that snapshot in time. So I don't know, I know some of you are Riding and Driving Club. Yeah, so we do have a lot more business to attend, just wanna. You can make a comment, I just wanna try to keep it brief and to the point.
Deb Hamilton, Middle Street, I'm director of ECTA and of the West Newbury Riding and Driving Club, serve on the planning board and Mill Pond Committee. When the town purchased Pipe Stave Hill from the Catholic Archdiocese, the prime movers for maintaining open space and maintaining the rural and equestrian tenor of the town was that the riding club would take over developing the rings at the top of the field, of the hill, the parking lot, and would continue to maintain them for perpetuity. Our uses over 40 years have not changed. We continue to hold 9 bona fide horse shows, 3-phase events, and trail rides on Pipe Stave Hill. We put in hundreds of hours as volunteers, mowing, maintaining the jump fields, the trails, and the rings. And we've managed to work with Park and Rec and the ball sports users in a way that we seldom have any conflicts. I make a point of getting approval from from Caitlin Marker, whose title I forget, but
DPW business manager.
right, that's, and residential, she coordinates the special permit, she starts the special permit process, and then we go to town clerk. But, I don't see any reason why you would abrogate this agreement. It's still imperfect.
It's not, there are a number of things in here that are not accurate. I mean, if this is something the Riding and Driving Club wants to renew, I think you need to take a look at it and update it. You know, there's, do you have the liability insurance of $500,000?
We do.
Okay. You're supposed to provide an annual calendar of activities to the select board.
We always do.
To the select board? I've never seen an annual calendar.
Well, I apply for the special permits for each
For
process.
facility use.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm just reading through the things that are part of this agreement. There are a number of things that, you know, this is 50 years old, yeah. So all I'm saying is if this is something you're interested in renewing with this select board, I would encourage you to go through and make sure that it's accurate. The Mill Pond Management Plan preempts a lot of what's in here now. And so there needs to be consistency between those two documents.
Do you see any reason why, if we can dot these i's and cross these t's, we can't continue with this relationship?
I do have, no, the relationship is fine. I think the work you're doing is great. I love seeing the questions up there. My concern is that you have primacy, you know, based on this agreement over ball sports who, you know, have to not allow activities to occur on the fields if there's an event going on because of the parking situation. They also, Park and Rec, when they do, field use planning, they have limits on how many events, how far out you can do. And so annually you tell them everything you want to do, and that's not how they operate. Like they restrict it to 3 months, that way nobody can like just demand all the uses up front, you know, without giving everybody a fair chance. So there are certain things about the way our facility use permitting works now that are not consistent with this agreement. I mean, I've highlighted things that I think should be addressed. Chris, I don't know. What do you think about this?
I haven't looked at the agreement, I looked at the concept. The
Yeah.
concept is, as we just found out with the previous people, the select board doesn't have the right to go granting these authorities.
Mhm.
You can give them, as you said, a license of permission, but town meeting would have to embrace if this was to be a contractual obligation going forward. My other question is, we put that conservation restriction on there by maybe 25 years ago,
Yeah.
2001.
pretty close, but I guess. So that obviously is the governing document at this point.
Mhm.
So again, you'd have to be very careful how these two lines will conflict with each other.
Yeah, I mean, there's regrading allowed and those kinds of activities that I don't know if that's allowed in the CR, but that's something that would have to be checked out. This allows for construction of one or more additional riding rings. Placement of utilities underground, erection of temporary or permanent buildings and structures. It's very broad. At the time, it probably made a whole lot of sense, but you know, with the CR and then the Mill Pond Management Plan. I think it needs another look. The Mill Pond Management Plan does talk about an equestrian management entity. So and as you know, the Mill Pond Management Plan also needs to be updated because that has a lot of inconsistencies too, so. Am I right?
It's just funny that you're saying be consistent with that plan.
Well, that's,
That we need to revise.
yeah,
Yes.
at a baseline.
We absolutely have to
Yeah.
revise it, yeah.
So, Wendy, one point of clarification, if I could, you mentioned three months and you're mostly right, but when the Park and Rec Commission voted their, updated facility use, they actually did provide a longer window of time for equestrian events. It provides for up to 6 months in advance. Let me see if I can, oh, yeah. So let's see.
Oh, this is the updated.
Yeah, so when they voted in June, so it's not, yeah, it's a minor point, but just.
No,
since-
it's report.
So it's, yeah, they adopted a reservation calendar essentially setting when they would open consideration of facility requests or field use requests for each season, spring, summer, and fall. And you can see it's kind of like for April to June, it's January 15th. It opens a little earlier for tier 0 and 1, which is basically like town events and youth sports, and then it's later for the tier 2, which is like the out of town for profit. Anyhow, they put a lot of thought into this, but they did actually provide a more generous
But I think
window for.
based on what Deb was telling them that they had rights to do it. So
Got
I
it,
think
got it,
this does
okay,
need to be-
but yeah, said for equestrian, it's not before 6 months before the anticipated events.
The other thing, Deb, I was just curious about, it said that all fees from rental should be paid over to the town.
We don't pay any rental fee.
So you're not contracting it out at all, so maybe a lot of this agreement doesn't even need to be here anymore, if that's not your, kind of your model for operating. It also says that, we're supposed to have one voting and one associate member on the Mill Pond Committee, that's a member of the Riding and Driving Club.
I've been on the Mill Pond Committee since 1989.
Right, but an associate member as well is supposed to be on. So these are the kind of things that I'm talking about. If this is something you wanna continue, I think we should take a look at those and we can have further conversations about it.
We can do that.
We do have a resident that's raised her hand.
Amy, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, actually, hi, it's Scott here with Amy, Scott Goldthwait, 17 Lawrence Lane. You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
So I have a couple of comments. One, I don't, the concept of if you want to continue with this is a little bit threatening. This has been an agreement that's been in place. Mass General Law does not recognize license agreements for real property. They do for personal property. So I think to qualify this as a license agreement is not correct. It's a property management agreement. And yes, it may be different than other property management agreements in town, but that's someone else's problem. There's nothing in this agreement that forces the current manager of the property to renegotiate. If the town would like to see some changes to it, I think you could recommend them and we can take that under advisement as the manager of the property. But just because it's different than another one doesn't mean they have to be exactly the same.
I guess, so Scott, our town council told us that this agreement is only valid if the select board decides to, validate it and approve it. So the fact that
so they have never done that, right?
well, they did, the signature of this document indicates that in 1983 they did.
Right.
Yeah, the way, just sorry to interrupt, Scott, but yeah, it was our real estate counsel, and she said, well, it doesn't obviously have the words license agreement. She said it was functionally equivalent to a license agreement, which in her description is revocable at any time by the board.
Well, it couldn't be revocable without a vote, and it certainly.
I'm just telling you what town council said.
I hope you didn't spend a lot of money on that because it's not like a license agreement. It's not even close. It's a property management agreement. So to position it like that, it's not even close, Angus. So
Please don't be confrontational. I'm just sharing the advice we were given. That's all.
But I'd say that the select board's being confrontational by saying, well, if you guys still want to use this, you have to go do something. There's nothing that compels us to renegotiate for this. I think in good faith, if there's some things that you recommend them. But, to come straight at this without even a discussion and basically saying you don't have rights to it anymore and it's revocable, way to de-escalate, Angus.
This is not Angus, this is the select board, and Scott. Deb brought this agreement to our attention, we had no idea it existed, nobody in town hall did.
That's irrelevant.
Not true, Wendy.
It's irrelevant that you never knew. It's obviously part of it.
Well, it's not a recorded document.
Yeah, this is not.
It's not findable in the registry of deeds. It's.
Yeah. I think if maybe you want to have a more in-depth conversation, we can do that offline. We are going by based on what town council told us. We're not trying to get rid of this agreement. We're just saying that this agreement can't be used to justify certain rights within the use of this area that is now governed by the Mill Pond Management Plan and a CR. Because it's no longer enforceable or valid.
The management
So-
you have with Parks, with Mill Pond does specifically state all of these things from 2007. So how are you negating that?
I'm not negating it. I'm saying that the Mill Pond Management or the Mill Pond Committee is not performing all these functions. These are ultimately rest with the town. So, I mean, this deserves a more close, evaluation. If there are certain things that you want to discuss, we can do that. I'm just responding to Deb Hamilton's request for us to take a look at this and.
So I'll take this back. Deb Hamilton did not request that. We were at Parks and Rec because they were trying to incur fees and we were showing them the agreement. So Deb didn't ask for that. You at that meeting said, wait a minute, we need to look at this. We don't think that this is valid. That's what you said.
Okay. I'm responding to conversations that I've had with Deb Hamilton about this. I don't remember that particular meeting, but this is an agreement we hadn't even seen. So of course, I would say we need to take a look at it. So unless there's anything new that people want to say here, I think we can.
I would like whatever copies of these documents that we can tweak this and comply with whatever needs to be updated.
Mhm.
I think we can do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, could someone make sure that Sarah is our president of the
Yeah.
Riding Driving Club? And Jennifer serves on the Mill Pond Committee and is a horse advocate. But I'd love to have copies of all the pertinent paperwork so that we can.
Well, it's all in the packet posted online for the meeting
Okay.
tonight.
Okay, thank you.
The Mill Pond Management Plan is on the town website as well.
It's linked from the Mill Pond Committee page.
Yeah. There is a document in here that's not signed. I don't know if you have any. This is the agreement between the Mill Pond Committee and the Riding and Driving Club. You gave us a copy, Deb, but it's not signed by anybody, so I don't know if you have a signed copy of it.
I don't.
Okay, so. All right, so we'll discuss further. Sounds good. Let's see, next item is the PFAS class action litigation. So this is a report on the funds that we've been allocated. Run to brief on this.
Yeah, so as you know, the board had previously agreed to enter essentially multiple class action settlement agreements on PFAS, and we've continued to have funds coming in. Unlike the opioid funds that come into a dedicated account that's established under Mass General Law, the PFAS funds actually lapse to free cash. There was an option to set up a dedicated account. I looked at that closely with Jenny, or I should say Jenny looked at that closely and briefed me back in when that question came up. And if a dedicated account had been set up, it still would have needed to be appropriated by town meeting. So it would have created some additional accounting really with no benefit. So in effect, the funds, and you can see from the reports she put together in FY 25, which is over $16,000 in settlement proceeds. And year to date in FY 26, it's nearly $36,000. So it's a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
That is going into free cash. There is no restriction, just like all free cash can be used for any lawful purpose. There's no restriction on that. But obviously the underlying intent of the settlements are to do with PFAS. So I wanted to just bring this up for discussion, certainly no vote and nothing binding, but just to get a sense of the board. Would you look at these monies, which will continue to accrue, by the way, as free cash? Or do you have any intent to see these kind of informally earmarked toward purposes, whether that's to do with water, whether that's to do with the steel landfill, continuing treatment?
That's what I was thinking, because
Yeah.
we know that PFAS are in the soil by the well test
We do.
around it.
We do.
Can you code the account just so we keep track of that and have a reserve somehow?
Oh, yeah, we track it, it's all tracked through the receipting. Every dollar that comes in that's why Jenny's able to run these nice clean reports, so it's all accounted, it's not segregated, it's still within that general fund balance. But yeah, she's gonna continue to keep a running tally of the monies that are received.
I think it should be sort of focused on, like you said, the landfill and any study, or it probably wouldn't cover much of the remediation, but
Could we keep it in a separate account? Is that too more work than?
No, it would be a town meeting vote to put it into essentially a stabilization account.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see it
I would think-
separate, just
yeah, I
so we
think
know,
very
people
specific.
know where that money is coming from, but
Yeah.
I don't wanna create work though.
That's, as you know, transferring into stabilization, it's a town meeting vote, but it's
Yeah.
not, it's not a lot
I
of
think
work.
it'll kind of flag it to the residents too, that you've got a potential issue here, that it's gonna be bigger than that to remedy, I would expect.
Mhm.
So that's curious, if a private or if a resident was to come and say their well is contaminated, could we use this money to pay for it? Or because it's a private party, could we not use town funds?
We already paid money to have it tested.
Right, it gets very
Yeah.
case specific.
Yeah, okay.
I know that the town of Westford dealt with a lot of that when I worked there, and it's very case specific.
Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, if it's not too much trouble, I'd like to see it be separate.
Yeah, we'll add that to our list of articles for the spring, and no, that's not gonna be a big lift, and I think personally think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Let the voters know the monies are coming in, why they're coming in, and while they're not legally restricted to different purposes, I think it makes a lot of sense to essentially earmark those funds.
Mhm.
I think it also puts the PFAS issue on the residents' radar too.
Yep. Mhm.
Should-
Good.
Okay. Let's see. The next item is, production and approval process for town and property trail maps. So we had talked about this, I think, as a potential agenda item 2 meetings ago. This came up because maps were produced, as part of the Open Space Committee's, project, to put up new trail markers and maps on Break Hill. But the maps were not produced, by the town, they were produced by a resident, and they weren't approved by the select board before they were posted. There's a number of concerns about them. They show trails on private property, which we are really trying not to do. They show parking areas that aren't, they show parking in places where there's not actually a parking area, it's just a road. A couple other issues, there's no town seal on it. It mentions a copyright of the Open Space Committee, which is not a valid thing. So these are just general concerns. Prior to this map, there were also concerns about other town maps that have similar issues. So the thought was, A, we need some kind of formal approval process before town, maps get put up. And B, is it time to do like an overhaul on our town trail maps and come up with a consistent design format? And Angus and I had kind of suggested, well, maybe that could be a good CPC project at some point, because it could turn out to be quite extensive between doing research on, easements and that kind of thing. I did reach out to Greenbelt. I mean, I happen to really like their maps. And I had a meeting with their GIS coordinator this week, a Zoom meeting. And they just kind of walked through with me what their process is, and they have, it's a 2-part thing. One is the GIS part, and then the other is strictly desktop publishing, how you want it to look, the color scheme and all of that. And they said that they use interns from Salem State College. They have a pretty robust GIS program. So they're gonna send me a bunch of resources. I thought that might be something that would be kind of cool to give a college student a chance to get some real life work experience. But the first step, if we want to pursue that, would be to have a kind of a design process, and we would want to engage Open Space Committee and Mill Pond Committee and other entities that have.
Yeah, I think it's not reasonable to expect consistency with maps across all the town properties. And I saw the maps at Break Hill. Kind of shocking at first, I guess, because they don't look like anything else on the other maps out there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how we get to the point of having them put up and what the process is, but yes, I think there needs to be a reasonable process to address it, like you say.
Mhm.
The biggest issue will be trails on private property. I know we've had that discussion on other properties.
Yeah,
That's the last thing we want to get involved with.
right. So this is just an update. I said I'd look into it. You know, obviously this is not on the work plan right now. I think maybe FY 27, if this is something we want to pursue, we put together a proposal to, you know, maybe have interns work on it, or maybe it could be a CP. What do you think about a CPA project? I mean, that's still a fair amount of town management to do that. You know.
Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking at the time is what do we do with the ones that are up now that have
Yeah,
onto private property? That seems to be a problem to me.
Can I, it's Carol. I'm wondering if I can speak.
sure. Yeah, I can't see you because I need to share the screen. Oh, hey, okay.
There I am. Yeah, again, we talked about this at open space meeting, and Steve Greason is the one who's been doing the maps for probably 20 years. And, you know, he updated colors on the Break Hill map, but if you go back to the original Break Hill map, it's very similar. And you have an incredible volunteer that's willing to do maps. If you don't like colors, this was a 6-month map until we got the Webster Trail approved. So again, you know, I had brought the maps to our open space committee. They had been reviewed. I'm not aware of private property that's showing on that map. But next time we would bring it to the select board as the, you know, the entity in charge of this property. So, you know, again, Steve knows the trails. So it'll be interesting of, you know, working with another party and, especially after the intern who then takes over these maps. But it is
Well,
something we do need to talk more about in the future.
I mean, don't you think consistency across all town properties with maps should all have the same formatting and the same designations and such?
Yeah, I think they do now. You know, if you look at some of the Mullen properties, if you look at the open space properties, I mean, even Riverbend, it was all done by Steve. So, but yeah, if we want consistent maps, if that's something that's important, I think it'll be a town position that would have to keep it up. So,
yeah, I mean, that would fall under the conservation agent. I mean, I think that's reasonable. My concern with having one person responsible is, you know, what happens if they move? You know, I think that was why we wanted to make sure we had editable versions of the work that he did. And
Yeah.
I respect his right to not share it, but that doesn't mean we have to just continue to use them, you know, if that's how we, so.
well, it's something we can talk about.
Could I say something?
Just a minute, John, what, Chris?
I didn't know that we don't have the rights to use these.
No, that's why this came up, because there were those issues on it, and Angus, when he asked for payment reimbursement for the copying and laminating charges, he said that he would not share them. He feels like it's a copy, you know, his personal work, and he should not share
And I don't know why I'm posting on town property then. That's weird.
it. Yeah,
I mean,
but there's a requirement anytime a vendor does anything for us, they're required to give us, you know,
Yeah,
work product.
so-
Yeah, I know we're not paying him for it, but still, if it's on town property,
shouldn't
we're
be put out,
responsible
period.
for it, yeah.
then you've got no control over it.
Right. John, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'd just like to say, Steve and you can't find 2 more people in town who walk those trails more than we have. And so if you brought in an intern from Salem State who doesn't really know the trails, you're going to be missing something and starting from scratch with brand new maps. I just hiked 3 miles in Break Hill, and Steve's maps were invaluable. And if you know, if you're saying that some of the trails on the maps are private property, can you give specific examples?
Wendy, if I could just for 1 second, so, John, I'm not gonna answer that specific question, but I'm gonna say something that I think is relevant. So what I put up on the screen share, this is something that's in the updated, action plan for the open space and recreation plan. One of the items in there, is to reconcile the various trail maps including but not limited to town GIS trails layer, property-specific trail maps posted to the town website, ACTA and Greenbelt publicized maps to ensure they're accurate and internally consistent. If trails across privately owned property are shown as providing for public access, but do not in fact have deeded public rights, remove the associated maps unless and until deeded. So some of the context for this is, personally, I agree that the aesthetics of Steve's maps are terrific. You know, I think it's a great service but my understanding is he's not necessarily using the trails layer, so that creates the potential for inconsistency. So we have the town GIS data and we have separate trail maps that aren't drawing from the same data. And the only specific inconsistency I became aware of a number of years ago was on the property out by what is now Sawmill Brook, where it was showing on the town GIS a trail across private property. The assessing office, must have been 5 years ago, but the assessing office had been approached by the property owner, raising concern about this, saying if effectively there is in fact a trail there on the ground, but it is not a public trail and we have not granted public access. So the assessor brought that to my attention and we had that rectified right away because I did not want to be in a position where the town was effectively promulgating public rights that don't in fact exist. So back then, and again, this is probably 5 years ago, Christian was pretty new at the time. I asked him to do a GIS analysis of the trails data layer in the GIS and basically run an intersect function of the trails layer with private property. And then to one by one, look at every instance where the trails layer intersects private property and then work with his office and Maureen to see if there is in fact a public easement. And if there was, to leave it, and if there wasn't, to remove it, because we didn't want to be purporting to show public rights that don't in fact exist. So I think, there's some amount of work to just reconcile these various maps and, so I don't personally think it needs to be blown out of proportion, but it is I think it's a legitimate issue.
Yeah.
I think Carol can speak to this because I think she talked to Steve, who is willing to make changes. I think we all agree. We don't want town maps with trails across public property. There's no argument there, but I think Steve will make changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just believe the town map should reside in the town. I mean, I think it's great if he wants to help, but he's not even associated, he's not on a committee or anything. He has no.
He's not on open space?
No.
He
I'd
has
say so
kindly
what?
worked with open space. And he did most of the work for Break Hill. So we have a big thank you, as I wrote, to the select board to give Steve. So.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not minimizing his contribution. I'm just saying to have
Right.
all the town's maps reside with one person
Right.
is just not practice,
Yep.
All right, so.
Yeah, there was an issue, this is actually probably 6 or 7 years ago. This got manually fixed because at that time I didn't know Steve, I didn't have that relationship, but there was an issue very early in my tenure where every one of the maps had a hyperlink on it that said www.westnewburyopenSpace.net. It turned out that URL was no longer controlled by whomever had set it up, and it had actually been taken over by a malicious actor. And it was a link that if you clicked it, it actually opened like a worm on your computer. It was a serious issue, and this was pointed out in a Facebook post. This must have been my first 6 months on the job. I mean, it was one of the many things that was like came up out of nowhere. And I remember Glenn Kemper was the chair. He called me up. He said, fix this now, like now. And so I remember, actually, John, you'll remember because I reached out to you. John was on the open space committee. I gave him a call and I was under strict direction from the chair to get this fixed. And so and with John's help, and thank you, John, for that, we manually downloaded each map. We redacted the offending URL and reposted the map. And we did that all within about a day. And John, I think we set you up at one of the vacant workstations. And as I recall, you spent the better part of a day helping us do that. And I showed you how to use the Acrobat, but, just a minor issue, but had I known Steve, I could have just called him, but anyhow, That was a long time ago,
Well,
but
Right.
it speaks to this document control issue.
Yeah, I saw maps this weekend that still have that.
Oh, it's still on the print maps.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we fixed it on the website,
Right.
but there are still print maps. In fact, I was hiking in the Break Hill area from the Groveland side, because that's near where I live.
Yeah.
And that map is posted there, and it's still got westnewburyopen.space.net on there, and I will tell people, do not go to that link. Because it will open a malicious virus on your computer.
Well, we shut down that site and we transferred everything from that site
Right. and some
to the
other
town
entity
side.
Some other entity gained control of the URL. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that?
No. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Next item is proposed select board policy, for responding to, parties that are interested in discussing, potential land acquisitions. So, this came about, last month. It was Greenbelt was, had a potential property that they wanted to float, by the town. You know, I discussed this with the open space committee last night. Typically, Greenbelt will go to the open space committee and they'll meet in executive session. We've since learned that that's not allowable, way to, or reason to use executive session. So this policy is just an effort to try to formalize who Greenbelt should talk to, what parties should be involved. And this was not meant to minimize the open space committee's role, but more to bring other parties in that may have an interest. Greenbelt's priorities have expanded beyond open space and trails. They're now interested in climate change resiliency and water protection and agriculture, which we know from the Brown Spring Farm purchase. So that's what's behind this. It's not an attempt to cut anybody out or slight anybody's contributions. I will note that the Open Space Committee voted 6-1 against the select board adopting this policy. I mean, that's not, it's not based on their vote, but that I just wanted to convey that they really were not in favor of this establishing this policy. So, Chris, what do you, this was something that you had asked, or we had decided to do based on the discussion a couple meetings ago.
Okay.
So,
I don't know why they were voting on it, I guess. Open space,
but they just were really upset about it.
but first of all, it says, when it comes in, the town manager will identify the boards, blah, blah, blah. When I think a property inquiry comes in, it should go to the town manager and the select board initially versus just the town manager. And then decide which other committees or boards become involved. Because it isn't always open space. It could be, or, you know, Parks and Rec, Affordable Housing, DPW, it could be multiple entities. So to have all these other committees individually attempting to negotiate parcels in a vacuum wouldn't be a good thing. I think just for clarity and control, it should all go in through one.
Mhm.
And then back out to where it's going once it gets.
So the reason that, if it was gonna be the select board, it'd have to be the select board, you know, one person for the
That's
select
fine.
board. Because we, you know, the select board also is not, we have a legal opinion that
Mhm.
the select board also should not be in executive session with Greenbelt. The reason why is because Greenbelt's negotiating interests are being protected by us being in executive session, and that's meant to protect the public body's interests, not Greenbelt. I mean, we have, the town is interested in preserving open space, so we have an interest, but we don't have a financial stake at that point in the negotiations, so.
Again, it's always not gonna be just Greenbelt necessarily either. It could be individual property owners.
So that's the case, if somebody, if this was a direct negotiation and a property owner came to us, then the executive session statute would apply in that, because we would have a direct financial interest.
And again, that's just another reason why everything should flow in through one conduit and back out, I
Yeah.
believe.
So I think one of the concerns raised by the open space committee was what if the town manager or select board is not in favor of, you know, protecting open space, just because we are, doesn't mean, you know, future boards are. So, oh, bummer.
We thought you missed us.
I've just been a complete panic over this,
Oh,
because
no.
my computer.
I'm glad you found it.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Bye. I was just saying that that's one of the concerns, that, you know, a potential
I think it's a
acquisition.
valid concern because these, committees, not committees, these green belts or private, the conversations are had already. So they'll already know, if the select board says no, then they can then take issue with that and move forward, but I think starting off the process, you should go. Start, we have to start,
All right, so did you have any changes to this?
the town manager, and select board chair, like that, I think the select board chair should be involved at the beginning of the process rather than.
Rather than the town manager?
I think that in conjunction. Contact the town manager and select board chair, that would make me happy.
One thing I would point out, Wendy, I don't know how much of an issue this was, I wasn't at last night's meeting, but to the extent of, concern people might have about either me or a future town manager. Not being favorable or just essentially pocket vetoing an issue. I will just remind people if they're not familiar with the Town Manager Act, one of my statutory responsibilities is to keep the board fully apprised of the activities of my office. That's part of why you see so much in your packets. That's part of why you get so many emails and, I try to, do that job. And I think anyone who sits in this seat, that is, it's not just a job description, it's actually in the statute. So if that was ever to happen, that something came across, my or future town manager's desk and, that information wasn't shared, you would actually have recourse against that. So.
Did I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, what bothers me about this is that it's a solution in search of a problem. This is all about meeting with Vanessa Johnson Hall, the representative from Greenbelt, who initiates and starts, really has her ear to the ground and knows what parcels are coming on. And, the way it's sort of structured is, okay, they go to the town manager first, the town manager notifies the chair of a particular committee, and this is without the full participation of that committee. And the more this goes down through individual people, it's not the same as when Vanessa comes to us, knows many of us. And, when we're talking about a land acquisition increase, I mean, I said this last night, and at least 90% have to do with open space. I mean, sure, the water department, might want a particular parcel for a new well, and they should be very involved in that. And we're not keeping anything from anybody. And I heard Angus talk about how busy he is. This is just another thing on his plate. And, we're not keeping anything from anybody. This just came out of the blue. Nothing was broken. We have a great track record of success in acquiring open space. And this somehow seems to water it down or sort of pulls it back all into town hall. And that's why I object to it. And that's why I would implore you to drop this and vote against it. I thought Ross might be here tonight, so it's, we got 2 votes. I don't know how that goes if it was a tie, but anyway, that's my problem with this proposal.
Okay. I don't know if it's Dan or Patricia that's got their hand raised.
As you can imagine, it's Patricia.
I thought it might be Dan.
No, he's listening, but he's not speaking.
Yeah.
It's not yet. Yeah, so I sort of echo what John had to say. I don't know, how this came about. I know that you got an opinion on executive session, both for open space and the select board when it comes to at least initial explorations of property acquisitions by Greenbelt or others. I don't think that's a reason, however, to change the way things have been working pretty successfully for about 30 years. And I don't know that there have been any issues or complaints about the way they have been working. The Open Space Committee is in a unique position to be able to look at a potential property or interest in property, or certainly less than a fee interest, and make a judgment how it fits into the protocol for evaluating conservation values and properties, how it fits into the existing trail system.
And, we have a long history, and it involves, all 7 of us on the Open Space Committee. The proposed policy, which we discussed with Wendy last night, would of necessity limit the discussion of any conservation property that comes up. And that's all the Open Space Committee has ever been asked to evaluate or ever had anything to do with. Anyone coming to the town wanting to acquire or sell property for a reason other than conservation values doesn't come to the Open Space Committee. So that's really not an issue with us. I'm just sort of puzzled why this is coming up now and whether there are some issues that we're not aware of. And lastly, I echo what John said. I mean, I've been listening for an hour and 45 minutes, so I got to hear Angus talking about how his office, particularly himself, is overwhelmed by the amounts of things he has to do. So this is just one more layer of an obligation to be the chair of an ad hoc committee that I would say is more appropriate to delegate to a committee, such as the Open Space Committee. So that's my take on this.
Thank you.
And Wendy, can I speak? I can't find my little hand raised. So
Okay, I see your hand.
thank you. I'll just reiterate, or just acknowledge both of their, their commitment to open space. I mean, especially both John and Patricia over these many years. And I would say something else that came out last night was just the deep knowledge that the Open Space Committee members have of the different parcels in town. And we have always worked very well with Greenbelt in coming up. And so if, a parcel, is the open space is excited by this after hearing from Vanessa, of course it would go to the select board and the town manager, who could then say, yes, let's bring in the agricultural committee. Let's get the water department involved. But let's not rearrange when we don't have to.
Lisa, do you have anything new to add? Just want to try to move this conversation along. Do you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I do have something new. I guess I'm new to the Open Space Committee, but I will speak actually just as a resident of the town and somebody who, if I wanted to give a portion of my land to conservation and to the town, I think it would be preferable for people to work with a committee. I think the danger in going through the town manager first is that it can be political. And I think people need to feel comfortable, and that might not always be the case. I mean, I'm not saying it is right now, but that can happen in a town, especially a small town. I think where you have a committee with several people, I think that have different values and different opinions, I think it's a lot easier and more comfortable for people to approach a committee, especially a dedicated committee like the Open Space Committee that has a long history of successfully working with residents of the town. That sort of choosing not to go that route anymore, I think is possibly losing valuable land acquisitions in the future. I think that kind of needs to be looked at. Things change in towns, and people change, and positions change, and feelings that people have towards town government changes. But I think a committee like Open Space Committee that is dedicated to this would probably have a lot more success working with people and helping to sort of issue them through, donating their land. I think it's an important aspect to consider in this.
So just to be clear, this is not cutting the open space committee out. This is just like the initial screening process to see if other parties need to be involved. I mean, the open space committee would most likely be involved in all of these conversations, so.
But I think that initial contact is probably the most critical. I think it's.
I do need to say, excuse me for interrupting, the open space committee doesn't have any authority to negotiate for the town, so it is problematic for the open space committee to be out there on their own, engaging with potential, you know, donors to the town. So, I mean, that's what's behind this, to just set up a process. It's not cutting anybody out. It's just a process that everybody knows, how it's going forward.
Wendy?
So,
Wendy,
yeah,
I think it's fair to say that the Open Space Committee has never negotiated on behalf of the town, and never proposes to do so. And I think, as both you and Chris know, and certainly Angus knows, you know, if and when Greenbelt or someone else comes to us with what looks like a viable proposition for conserving some land in town, the second stop after talking to that person is to speak to the select board. And that's always been the case. And, you know, at that point in time, you know, either the group that's interested is expanded or more likely not, and in past years.
right.
And I think we have a system that works, and if it's not broken, it doesn't need to be fixed.
And if I can add something, again, I can't find that little hand array, so. Yes, I agree. We've never pretended that we are negotiating with anybody. We are gathering information about a particular parcel. Vanessa bounces off us. How much do you think the town might be willing to pony up with CPC funds? And of course, that has to go through the select board and town meeting. We make no presumption that we are the guiding force here, or the, you know, to the exclusion of everybody else in town. Also, I will tell you, I know Vanessa very well, and I've done site walks with her for well over 10 years. And, you know, she says, I talk to Angus all the time. So whether she's talking to Angus a day before she talks to us or 3 days after, I mean, that doesn't really matter to us. That's insignificant. But yeah, so I mean, I just want to leave it there. I hope you deep six this. This is just more red tape, and it just you know, it doesn't accomplish anything in my view.
All right, thank you. What do you want to do, Chris?
I want to address one concern of mine. I can think of offhand 2 parcels where we've met with Vanessa. And the process is, she has come into us and there's already a deal that's been formatted. So we haven't negotiated that, what she's coming with the proposal on these times. It's already been done somewhere. I'm not gonna say it was open space or who it was, because I don't know where it originated. So it does handicap the select board when you present it with the proposal. Here it is. Here's who's contributing what, and we want the town to contribute so much. That doesn't give you any latitude to negotiate. So wherever these deals are coming from, the 2 that I can recall in the immediate past on select board, we've had no opportunity to negotiate. It's a yes or a no.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the negotiation occurred up to that point, or if it was fair or reasonable either. So I felt like on the 2 that I'm thinking of, we caught the tail end of it. And it was gonna go to town meeting real quick, and we had some missteps in between because of the speed of it too. It would have been nice to know 4 or 5 or 6 months in advance that these parcels will be coming our way, and you could do your due diligence in advance so we don't have the problems that we had. So.
Chris, that no negotiation ever happens with the Open Space Committee in Greenbelt regarding the town's relationship to anybody else. If Vanessa's negotiated with Fish and Wildlife or some other conservation entity, or she knows what she can get from a grant-making authority, she gathers those numbers together, and then the difference is what she might ask the town for. But the town is always free to say no, or we can give this, or how about if somebody else gives that? That's the negotiating body's job. That's negotiating with Greenbelt. And I believe truly that would be subject to an executive session, and that is the purview of the select board.
It hasn't felt that way in the meetings that I've been in. That's all I'll say.
All right, let's move this along. Okay. Do we want to have this policy or not?
I guess I'll say.
I mean, I don't see the harm in it, so.
I don't either, so.
All right, so do you want to make a motion to adopt it, or what?
We wanna wait till Ross, we just wanna do it. No, Ross. The only thing I would like,
You know,
Why don't you wait till Ross? Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
okay, we'll go on.
I would just respectfully point out it is listed on discussion item for tonight, not action item.
all right, so just fair warning, we're not gonna have an extended discussion when we vote next time, okay? We spent a lot of time on this. I think we are both clear on, you know, how you all feel. And I spent an hour with you last night talking about it, so I just want to set expectations that we're not gonna have another long conversation, okay? Thanks. Next item is planning board progress on engaging the consultant for the comp plan visioning.
So I had recommended this for the agenda, knowing that the planning board was gonna meet on Tuesday night. I was not able to be there. I had my daughter's choir concert, but you were there, so how are things going?
So the document that the town planner showed online was significantly altered from the first one. He said he still is not coordinated with the CPO, which I think can't be the case because it was formatted and, so I don't have a lot of insight
Okay.
on what's actually going on. I know they were working on, the committee charge document today. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, the board members were, or the planner was?
I think one of the board members was meeting with the town planner. The board members also asked for our comments to be shared, yours and mine, Chris. And there was some,
Had they, I'm sorry to interrupt, had they received the comments that had been sent over to the chair and the planner?
yes, but the individual members I had not, I guess.
Oh,
And they also said at the outset, they were not happy that the select board, they wanted to know why the select board was commenting on the scope. So, yeah, so. I don't know. Not much to report, I guess, but they are working on it. What I could see from what was just scrolled quickly on the screen, it looks like the formatting's been addressed and.
Are we not supposed to be commenting on this?
I don't know, it was in the packet, so I thought we were supposed to, yeah. So,
Who signs the contract?
the select board.
no, it would be the CPO because it is subject to procurement. It's not a designer selection, it's a 30B process.
They're also, they kept saying RFP instead of RFQ, and I made the point that it's an RFQ, but I just want to make sure that they are.
So you actually, and you and I had emailed back and forth on this a week or so ago, and there's some nuance in it, but you can have a RFP as a qualifications-based process. Generally, you know, you think of the difference of RFP and RFQ as price-based or qualification-based, but Caitlin has told me you can call it an RFP and still it's the way it's written, have a qualifications base, which I know is obviously the intent for a project like this.
Yeah, it does say qualification based. So, I mean, should the select board be providing comments on this? I guess I'm not clear on how. the
So
process.
under Mass General Law, the responsibility to do a master plan is the planning boards.
Right,
With that said, you know, it was the select board that sponsored the article to fund the visioning process, and it was funded from free cash. I think all that you're trying to do, and all we're all trying to do, is have the best possible outcome and process, and to ensure that there's a scope that's going to be responsive and realistic within the budget. I mean, I think the initial draft that was circulated, I did not feel like a $45,000 item to me. It felt like a six-figure item. So I think providing input it's a public document, it's in a public, in the planning board, packet. I don't think it was presumptuous for the select board members, to offer
Okay,
comments on that.
okay. So I guess, so as far as you know, Caitlin is involved?
So I haven't talked to her about it this week. I know as of, a week ago, she hadn't been, but I talked to her and I talked to Chris and I said, you gotta be, I told him he's gotta be in touch with her, working with her, so.
Okay.
But I met with Caitlin earlier today and something else, but that topic didn't come up.
Yeah.
There is a hand raised by, either Patricia or Dan, I'm assuming.
It's Dan again.
Yeah, no, it's not Dan. Yeah, so Wendy, I just briefly asked you last night to what extent the comprehensive plan includes the open space plan, and I think you said that it did. So we're going out for requests for proposals or qualifications for an entire comprehensive plan, including an open space plan?
No, I'm sorry. I thought you said the open space committee. That was one of the members. I was talking about the steering committee. I thought you asked me if the open space committee was on that committee that's gonna be doing the visioning.
No, I was interested to know whether the comprehensive plan RFQ or RFP, whatever you call it, will include the open space plan, because frequently they are part of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, it's one of the supporting documents. They're not gonna be revising it or anything. Is that what you mean?
Yes, that was what I was asking, whether or not the consultant is being asked to also revise the OSRP as part of the comprehensive plan.
No, sorry for misunderstanding.
Okay, great. Thanks for clarifying.
Yep,
Would have been a bigger project.
yeah. All right, so I guess we'll just,
No, and just to follow on that, Patricia, one of the reasons that the select board for the last couple of years has been specifically holding off on supporting initiating the comprehensive plan process until last spring, when it was brought forward for the funding for the visioning process, was that we were actively in the process of the OSRP updates as well as the housing production plan updates, and so it followed naturally to let's get those two pretty critical components done and then initiate the comp plan process. So the intent all along has been to build on that prior work, the OSRP and the housing production plan, as well as the hazard mitigation plan, which was also updated in the last year. But I do think that's part of why the select board's kind of institutional knowledge of all of that, particularly where we do have a new town planner. I think it's, making sure that coordination is fully reflected, I think is really important. I don't really understand why comments wouldn't have been welcomed.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
yeah. All right. Last discussion item is correspondence from a nature program camp that's interested in using Mill Pond for the summer. Yeah, this has never been done before, to my knowledge. I don't even understand how this could work if it's a public park with dogs and horses and.
Yeah, I did speak with the gentleman by phone and I expressed, some significant concerns, but I wanted to make you aware particularly because I believe he'd been in touch with Mill Pond Committee and gotten some sense of, support for this, and so just out of respect for the request and in full disclosure, my daughter actually goes to this program
Oh, is that right?
down in Georgetown.
Yeah.
But to me, I felt there were significant operational concerns because, and I told him very frankly, I'm not a camp director, but I wouldn't want to run a camp on a public property where there's unleashed dogs or there's different users. That seems to be some liability issues both for the town and for the camp. So
Yeah.
I think it isn't gonna make sense, but I wanted to share that the correspondence had come in.
Okay. Chris, what are your thoughts?
The same thing, I just, they're gonna monopolize the space for that certain time frame. It's like you got people fishing. You got horses, dogs, kids. I just don't see as realistic. I like the concept
Yeah.
and I wish them the best. I just don't see how it fits in or how it benefits West Newbury. I mean, if it was a West Newbury summer program, maybe. It's a good concept. But it would be quite an inconvenience to residents who need and want to use that space. It's a pretty heavily used space,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, you would almost have to shut it down for the.
We would have, yeah, she would have to preclude the residents from there. I don't know if that's reasonable.
Yeah,
So that was my concern.
okay. Is that
Can I
enough?
say
Yeah.
something, Wendy, real quick?
Sure.
It's Carol. Yeah, just to, obviously Angus, if your daughter's involved with Andrew, I knew him from Mass Audubon and he's extraordinary. So I saw this on the agenda, so I thought I would stay on and just give him a plug because this would be kids from West Newbury doing a summer nature program too. And his teachers are extraordinary. It'd be worth just exploring with him. I mean, because he uses, I've seen other public spaces and has been very successful doing that. So just a plug for Andrew.
I did tell him when we spoke by phone because he had first reached out. This was back in mid-November. And we talked by phone probably within about a week after that, sometime before Thanksgiving. And I told him that any consideration for summer 2026 was going to be a hard no, because there will be a lot of details to work out, you know, in all kinds of respects. But I did suggest to him that if and I also said, I assume that you would be looking at this and not as a one-off, but something you would intend to do if it worked out kind of summer after summer. He said, yes, that's accurate. So I said, well, you know, it seems to be that the first step would be to visit the space, look at the cabin, get a sense of the physical facility, because I don't believe he'd been in the cabin, and just to understand even if it would work for them in the first place. And so, you know, my thought was I could put him in touch with Brian. He could just go take a look and see if it even made sense, and then bring forward something more formal to consider for summer of 2027. And so that's kind of where I was going to go with it, but I didn't want to even go that far without, you know, sharing it with the board as the custodial entity, because I do think I can't imagine how you could do this in this space without restricting public access. And, you know, knowing what we all know about how beloved the property is, I think that would be, you know, a steep hill to climb for this community. So it's just, I don't know if you even want to start.
Sure.
Yeah. But no, we've had wonderful experiences with their program and their staff, and my daughter spent, I think, at least maybe 4 years and counting.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you.
I wonder if they should reach out to Evergreen Farm. I mean, they have the school program there during the school year, maybe over the summer.
Yeah, that could work too.
Yeah,
What about back to Elwell's? I don't know why they parted ways at Elwell's. That's another private opportunity too,
yeah,
which would be dissimilar to Bell Pond, to be honest.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can point them in that direction.
All right.
My kids actually attended a nature camp there years ago. So there actually was one.
Nice.
And it was really good. And they used I guess we're calling it the cabin, that, you know, the building. And I think it was a 2-week, and it was young kids. I mean, it was when they were like kindergarten, first, second grade. So it was, I can't remember who ran it, but it was really wonderful. I think it'd be a great thing for kids in the town.
Okay, correspondence from Mayor Reardon. I'm gonna try to go to this. I don't know if this is something we should make the Energy and Sustainability Committee aware of.
Definitely, and health as well. Yeah.
I appreciate it. That was a good idea.
Yeah. And then new state regulations on the Cannabis Control Commission. So that was just informational.
Just informational. Our preliminary take on this is that it probably will not have an impact on West Newbury, but we have more to learn about that.
Yeah, okay. Future agenda items. I have a couple. One is, we had talked about hiring an outside firm to do an operations audit to kind of look at the structure of the organization. I mean, we've talked before about how we have a town manager form of government, but everything is not all consistent with that. So I'm gonna try to get a proposal over break, and hopefully not break, over vacation. Hopefully at our January 8th meeting, we can discuss that and see if it's something we want to go forward with. And then I attended the ADU webinar, on Wednesday. That was by the Mass Housing Partnership, and there's some interesting stuff about, I asked about the energy code requirements there, and Christian was I saw him on the webinar as well.
Oh, good, on the assessing
Yeah.
piece of it, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just give an update on that. There's some really interesting programs, I think the trust will want to follow up on, so. So you have nothing else for next? Okay. All right, I move we go into executive session, for MGL chapter 38, section 21A, 1, 2, and 7. We're skipping the others. All in favor?
While I.
The aye. Thanks, Amanda. So we will, return to open session for the sole purpose of adjournment. Thank you.